right, so we'll call the meeting to order a couple minutes after 7 after a problem with our projector, but everything's going well. Any additions or deletions to the agenda? And then changes. I was thinking about, and I probably should have said something, about having a short executive session at the end to talk a personnel issue. It's Renee's time to work on annual review. And so I just wanted to have a brief discussion so we can keep that moving forward.
We'd have two reasons, right? Yeah, two personnel.
Two personnel?
Yeah.
Oh, is there another reason to have executive session?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so we will have an executive session then, or we'll vote for one at the end of the meeting for personnel issues. Any public comment? No? First item on the agenda is to consider appointing Jonathan Slason to the DRB as a regular member. He's now alternate member. In our packet, we have his resume and a couple of recommendations from Mitch and Dennis Place, who's the DRB chair. Any discussion on that?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
To appoint him?
Yep. The
Is
first
there-
part of your.
Yeah, okay.
That's a good clarifying question.
Is there a time?
It's the Rolf's seat, so it's just replacing. So
And Rolf just
he
turned
just
out.
turned out, so it's the 3 years starting
Okay.
January 1st of 2019.
So I'll clarify that then. So I'll make a motion to appoint Jonathan Slazen to the DRB as a regular member, replacing Rolf Keelman in his term. Ending.
Ralph's term was up.
Yeah.
Oh, Ralph's term was up.
To the 3-year term.
So it ends in what, 2020,
2022.
2022?
Okay, and seconded. Any more discussion? Does seem like a great candidate, and well qualified, civil
Highly
engineer, and highly recommended. Okay, all those in favor of the motion to appoint Jonathan Slason, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, so that motion passed. Thank you, Jonathan, for volunteering, and good luck with that. Next
There's
item,
still 2 open seats
as
so-
alternates. Yeah,
advertising to the public here.
good, yeah.
TV audience.
TV fans.
Millions of fans.
Yeah.
The next item is, I guess, the idea of project proposal for the select board to consider. This is potential project UPWP has done some work on this, and we could start moving forward. This is the Lampman's exit intersection, realignment of that. It's been discussed for, I don't know, 5
Is
years.
that what we're talking about?
Is that,
No.
Not in the UPWP.
oh,
No.
that's not that next one?
No. The next one is what what's the new plan that we want to apply for?
CCRPC.
Thought we already.
I must have read the wrong memo from,
It's 4A.
so this is the project proposal for select board consideration. We had 3 projects we were looking at.
Yeah.
And so the first one was North Road, Richmond Road. The next one was the sidewalk on the east side between Mechanicsville Road and Commerce Street.
Yep.
And the third one was the Riggs Road alignment study. And I believe Alex recommended we go forward with the North Road, Richmond Road, Park configuration of that intersection, saying perhaps the Riggs Road can wait a year as we try to bring in developers to help pay for that study. It's in their interest. And the sidewalk, sort of push aside right now. There's not a huge necessarily pressing issue for that. So that's what this one is, item
Yep.
4?
Yeah.
Yep.
Alex,
Okay.
you wanna talk about it?
Oh,
Yeah.
sure, yep. Good summary, Phil, from the memo I wrote you. Yeah, so at your last, not your last meeting, at your December 17th meeting, we talked about these 3 possible projects. The cost estimates were refined between then and now, and they're higher, unfortunately, than I anticipated. So, like I explained in the memo, I don't think you're probably interested in dedicating as much as we would need in funds to try to complete all 3 of them. So I'm recommending you select the Richmond Road project as the one to make an application for. This is Chittenden County Regional Planning Commission grant project essentially, and they solicit projects every year, and this would be the one that we would apply for with local match to come from next fiscal year's budget from the planning and zoning special projects line item. I did run it by Mike, and he is supportive. He thinks it's a good idea, and in fact had already been in touch with the RPC. He didn't,
He's on the UPWB committee, so he's kind of familiar with the kinds of projects that come in, and
he had mentioned it to a staff member at the RPC, and there was some interest in looking at it, but there wasn't follow through at that point. So, anyways, he reviewed this and thought it was a good idea.
yeah, I mean, it doesn't really, it's not up to the staff of the RPC on what projects get on the UPWP.
No.
It's-
What I meant was he had discussed this idea with a staff
Oh.
member, and that staff member was going to sort of look into it outside of a UPWP project, but that never really happened.
Oh.
And so doing it more formally through a
I
UPWP
think that's
project,
the
I
only
think
way it
would
would
be a
happen.
good way to do it.
Yeah, that's the only way that staff, that's the way, that this is the work plan for the Regional Planning Commission. So aside from like small projects that we might get one of the traffic consultants at the RPC to look into, this is exactly the kind of project that is selected for the UPWP. So,
So there's no guarantee it would be selected.
Correct.
Right.
but there's
but-
generally,
Yeah.
it's a pretty reasonable project.
Yeah, and it seems like, a very good project, and I think putting 1 in versus 3 might be helpful too.
So as he noted, in his special projects line in the planning and zoning budget, right now it's 6,700. We would have to up that to 8,000, which
Yep.
I've shown in the.
You showed in that budget, yeah, the draft budget. Some discussion on this option?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a really good project for the Regional Planning Commission. The way they'll work is they'll hire a consultant to come in and look at it with, they'll have their traffic engineers, but there'll probably be a consultant hired. The one thing I would say is I wouldn't necessarily, I'd rather see it worded not as a 4-way controlled intersection, but to look at the intersection in this area. Because what we're hiring for is for there to be an evaluation and alternatives to be looked at on how we resolve what we consider to be, some safety issues up there.
Right.
As well as opportunity for park space. So I don't think we're necessarily say it's going to be a 4-way stop, but really what the alignments should be, and I don't know if people remember, but Texas Hill Road was already moved. It used to come out in a little bit further north of that. And so it was kind of in anticipation of trying to,
Align those
recognizing
intersections.
that those kinds of alignments are better. So it may not be a 4-way stop, maybe it'll be a roundabout or some other configuration, but we definitely have noticed that there's some safety issues there.
Right. And
I can
think the
certainly
board-
write it up that way more generally in the application. I did speak with staff and getting the cost estimate together, and we talked about how many public meetings there would be and the types of consultant expertise we would need. So I think we have a decent understanding of how it would work project-wise if we were to get the funds and get started after July 1.
And I believe when this came up before, the select board mentioned that this would be potential terminus of any path, rec path, or, sidewalk or what have you, going down Richmond Road, and really a good way to start that by slowing traffic down to begin with, I think. So,
Sounds
any
good.
other
Yeah,
discussion?
I think we should include it in the budget.
All right, so I don't think we need a motion, because
I did
it's in the budget.
I did suggest one just in terms of the UPWP application. It was on the second page of my memo.
So it would be helpful for the application.
I think it'd be nice to have it reflected in the minutes that you selected this project and, move to submit the application.
So, yeah,
I move that we submit a FY20 UPWP application for the Richmond Road, North Road intersection redesign and public open space project. And subject to voter approval of the FY20 town budget, which will happen in March, commit to the required 20% local match, approximately $6,000 from the planning and zoning special project line item.
all right? So we have a second. Any more discussion? So we have 8 in the budget because there's 2.
For the other state planning grant that we apply for each year, that's not.
Oh, right,
Not typically
right.
transportation
Yep.
related.
Okay, so this one will be 6, and the
Right.
total will be 8. Yeah. So we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. So the motion passed. Next item is discussion with Trails Committee concerning the sidewalk project on Richmond Road. I think we have your email or memo.
I had
Lenore?
sent you an email 10 days ago or so. Phil.
Did we? Is it in the packet?
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah.
We all got it.
Dated January 6th.
So, there's been more discussion in the last 2 months, 3 months about this project, which has been kicking around for a couple years, I guess, after the study was done, which appeared to be very expensive. But I think there's some new motivation by the board and members in town, and now clear motivation by the Trails Committee to try to move this project in however form it comes forward to improve walkability from North Road, that portion of town, down to the Seaview intersection. Did you want to?
I don't have a lot to say. I guess I should, first of all, say thank you for putting this on the agenda because I know it's a really busy time. And we probably should have had this eureka moment last fall when Renee was saying, well, what does the Trails Committee want to do in its budget next year? And I think we had been so kind of overwhelmed by the price tag that came out of that scoping study and kind of discouraged that we just kind of dropped it. And then Ray came and pepped us up again about it, and likewise with the Selectboard. And so we started to think about it again, well, how do we move forward with it? And there may not be time to do anything in this year's budget or for town meeting, because we're up against deadlines. But what the Trails Committee would like to see is just some commitment. Maybe it's just some staff time to help the Trails Committee, because we feel like we're out of our depth in trying to figure out between appropriations and capital budget and bonding and grants and crowdsourcing and brownie sales, how we move forward. So we feel like we really need somebody who knows something about budgeting, that we just don't have that talent on in our group
For
to
something of
help
this
us,
scope.
help us come up with a plan, and not to say, oh, we're going to do it someday, but come back on June 1st or August 15th or some date to say, okay, we're going to work on this really intensively and come up with a plan. Is what I have in mind. Now that may not be practical, I don't know, but that's kind of what I was thinking, hoping for.
Andrea?
Yeah, and I'd really like to speak to this because I think that it's really important that there be support for our committees in the form of assigned staff person to help with that. Also from my experience on working on various sidewalk projects, that even before you start getting a budget together, what's absolutely critical is that you talk with the neighbors and landowners. And that happens best, probably not necessarily by staff, but by neighbors talking to neighbors, and there being a committee. I mean, this is going to impact the people who live on Richmond Road. It will impact us all, hopefully, I mean, in a positive way, impact us in a positive way. So, I mean, it will be another asset to the community. So I would really like to support the Trails Committee and the neighbors in recognizing that there should be some staff support in helping to organize a meeting, thinking about developing a list of all the landowners, which would could do that, and then figuring out the best way to reach out, whether it's having a meeting, whether it's knocking on doors, doing that kind of stuff. So I think we have the preliminary, the scoping study, so we have a general gist if it's going to be an online road project, what that's going to be. There's also the opportunity to think about it being an off-road, that it really be some kind of connection from the trail, and it's maybe not either or, but both of those, that there can be a kind of a rec trail and an on-line sidewalk. But it all involves working with the landowners and having staff support so that the Trails Committee knows that they can get a map, that they can get a list of landowners. But the personal contact, I think, is absolutely key to get the project moving forward. So I really do want to support the Trails Committee in working on that, and I would recognize Renee in her position of assigning staff to work on it. And whether we want to put $500 in the budget so that we can make sure we have money for a mailing, or
Well, I mean, I
doing
think
some
we
maps,
added
or
2,000 to
Yeah.
that sidewalk budget, I think,
Yeah.
with some discussion saying that could be a little bit of money for a
Yep.
mailing or something, just to sort of get the ball rolling.
Actually have proposed more than that going into the sidewalk.
Right.
Just because of the existing sidewalk
Mm-hmm.
projects. I'm talking to Tyler Billingsley, who we've been working with to do a capital improvement plan for existing sidewalks. So if we want to factor in that, we want to make sure we get the budget figure right.
So, I don't know if we, I really appreciated Lenore's, kind of saying, putting it on the warning for town meeting is making us have a commitment. It's also giving us a chance to talk about what kind of work plan we have for all the really good ideas that come from the community. And so that the work plan, which is what we were just talking about from the Regional Planning Commission, we tend to just talk in numbers, but really we have a lot of projects that aren't necessarily ready to have a big budget number assigned to it. So I don't know whether we want to make a motion that the Select Board is committed to working on this, Richmond, or.
Could I ask a question?
Sure.
In my mind, I was thinking of a subcommittee of the Trails Committee, but in hearing you talk, I'm almost thinking, would it be appropriate to have some kind of ad hoc committee with
Yes.
membership
I think that
beyond?
would be
Absolutely.
appropriate.
I think, I like that idea, my
Yeah.
little blinders, I hadn't been thinking
Yeah.
of that.
Yeah,
quite
no, I mean,
broadly,
I
but
think,
that would be a good
yeah,
idea.
yeah, I mean,
To
I had sent,
solicit some
yeah, right.
blood.
I know Ray had offered when he came to a Select Board meeting, so I had sent him an email a week or so ago, and he's
I think
here.
he's gonna join the
Yeah,
Trails Committee.
he's gonna
Well,
join the Trails
That
Committee.
depends on you folks.
Right.
but I think he's expressed interest in
Right.
joining the Trails
So
Committee.
I think potentially an ad hoc committee, maybe with a member of the Select Board, somebody, with the town, who can help get the necessary information. And, it would be nice to see even in the town warning that says the town's committed to this type of endeavor, and perhaps next year there could be a capital budget or a budget amount to help move this thing forward.
Yeah, I mean, you can write it in your select board report, we can try to get it out there.
We can certainly, talk about it, but I would be open to something like that. I mean, we've talked among ourselves, it doesn't have to be what that report said, it could be a mixture of things.
Right.
And, it may be something we step into over time. We talk about improving it, so it's not only just a rec path or, it's a way to slow the traffic, it's a way to improve that whole avenue, because that's how people get down here. And, go ahead.
So I have a couple of questions. You had mentioned that Tyler might include this in his scoping study.
No.
Tyler is he's doing the existing sidewalk network.
That's what I
He's doing a
thought.
capital improvement plan for us with that. So we're already gonna be putting funds aside for sidewalk, but if we wanna also be thinking about this, we wanna put a little bit of extra.
So this might be an additional scoping study that Tyler would
Well,
do.
there's already been a
Yeah.
scoping study done for the
Oh,
Richmond Road
right,
sidewalk project.
right.
However, it was done in 2016. So the dollar figure is likely increased considerably
Right.
since
Yeah.
then.
Yeah.
But
But what they're, yeah, go ahead.
I thought we were talking last week, we were looking at that sidewalk number, that we did increase it just a little bit with the thought. But, I'd look to you saying, we're gonna have Tyler do his work, which is, I think, around $2,500, is that right? Something
Right.
like that. Then we have a little bit in the budget already that we might be doing some repairs on sidewalks and whatnot. So, I mean, we wanna make sure we have enough in the budget that, and I'm thinking, a couple $1,000s that this committee may potentially use to get the ball rolling.
So I have an additional question. I know that Ray said that the sidewalk is the only thing that's going to be acceptable, not a recreation trail. But to put a recreation trail in the interim, is that something that could be done as soon as we get landowner permission and without a large cost? And so it might be available more quickly than a sidewalk?
I doubt it.
Very
I mean,
it's very complicated.
both of them are really complicated, but the thing that generally holds up these projects, aside from the money, is landowner permission. I mean, you have to go through right-of-way acquisition, there's the engineering and all of that, but it's really support from the community in terms of people recognizing that, it's it might go through their front yard, a trail might go through their backyard, but we have very limited right-of-way along the Richmond Road because of the situation with the ditches and all the drainage. And so even if we keep the sidewalk within the right-of-way, it's not a lot when you look at it, then you need construction easements to build the thing. So the best way is to just kind of gauge the amount of really neighborhood support for the project. And then you can, and then it has come to, there are situations where there's the possibility that the town does use eminent domain to take some land to build a sidewalk. So that's something that has come before the board in the past, and that is kind of those situations have arisen numerous times, and sometimes the reason that the configuration of the existing rec path from the post office to the library is a result of various other paths that were possibilities. So I'm just saying, like, work with your neighbors and see where we can get to first.
So I'm just looking, so we have 7,500, is that?
That's what I have in there right
Yeah.
now, but I'm still talking, but his initial thought when I spoke with him last week was 10,000 per year to really have the amount that we need to do the repairs and things like that. I have a 7,500
Okay.
figure written there currently.
And you're saying that that's not, at this point, plus what we already have in the budget, which is 6 or 7 in the capital budget for
And
sidewalks.
what was as of,
Yeah.
yeah.
So I think we'll have a discussion about this in a little while today. I think we'll look at this and make a decision this meeting or next meeting on it. But my hope and my goal would be to have a little bit of seed money to get the project going. I think the idea of a committee, a working committee made up of trails and town folks and any other,
Neighbors.
neighbors, to sort of start the ball rolling.
Could I make a comment?
Yeah.
I'm Peter Mosley, I'm on the Trails Committee, and this is sort of a unique project, I think, because mostly we work with recreational trails, and I almost wince when I hear us calling this recreation because the imperative is safety for people who are not doing that trip for recreation. They're doing it because they're young people without cars, and they are up there in the schools down below, and so I see this as having a sort of a moral imperative for safety, and it would be great to have a recreational aspect to it, but this is a different piece of business, and that's why I think Lenore is so right to say that it's just different from most what the Trails Committee has addressed. We need a bigger base to push this. I don't want to keep up time. I think I'm preaching to the choir.
No, I
But
think
I live
that's,
up there
you're
and
right.
I drive that road, and I see those kids, and they scare me.
Yeah, no,
I
and
don't
we've
want
been
their
told that
points on my license.
a couple times this year, and I think that was really a realization for the select board to say we need to do something.
I think the term rec trail though is just that, it's just a term, because when we're talking about doing this, we need to keep affordability in the picture here. So a path or a trail like you guys are good at building might be one solution to get something on the ground. If it's not a concrete sidewalk, a trail is better than nothing.
Oh, I'm not arguing against the trail at all. That would be wonderful. It's just the word recreation, which is
well.
not the purpose, right?
Right.
Yeah. Well,
right.
you know,
No.
it's very interesting because there's different pots of federal funding, and if you call it recreation in one funding, it might get you money. If you call it recreation in another, oh no, it's not, it can't be that. And also how you, whether it's, to meet certain ADA standards, if we're following the right-of-way of the road, then it can be steeper. If we do it as a rec trail and off-road, then it has to be ADA compliant. So the
that's
terminology
what I
is very, but I think we're pretty much all on the same page, is that safety is
Yeah.
primary
Is the-
concern.
That's-
Yeah.
you're right.
Connectivity and safety.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ray, did you wanna?
Well, I agree with everything that's been said, and the support and communication that has happened within our little town is a model for everyone else you have to follow. This is how things get done, and it's very impressive. Anything that keeps people safe, but it needs to be realistic. I mean, every single day, I see people running, jogging, walking, biking, every single day. When we had that meeting prior to the study being done, this room was packed with people, packed. I've never seen more people in here. And the overwhelming consensus was they were all residents of Richmond Road, and all of them would seem to have support that. Any way that we can get the word out, maybe we can use some of this money for advertising. We need to blitz it so you'll let people come and we gauge interest. In my informal communications with my neighbors, we're all like this is a done deal. Absolutely. Oh, as a matter of fact, I've heard, why aren't we doing that already? We should have been doing that. Lots of kids, lots of people. It's a safety issue, and it's like I said the first time I was here. In my opinion, money is no object. If this is one thing that you were going to come the taxpayers for and say, hey, we need a little bit more. Hell, we built a garage. Why are we going to keep people safe?
Yeah.
So
No, and
so whatever I can do, I think we need to have a meeting, like get people here, solicit, volunteers, ad hoc, like with the, like Trails, like committee, and get that, process, moving. I think that's the plan. I think that's what we do. Absolutely.
Anything else from the select board? So we'll discuss that budget item. Obviously I'm not gonna pay for it this year, but we gotta get the ball rolling.
Yeah.
I love the idea of, as we discuss it, sure, it's a rec trail and all that, but I think you're right. I mean, putting that safety piece on it, front and center, really speaks to the whole reason, one of the biggest reasons, or the reason that it becomes an imperative
It's critical.
thing to move forward.
It's critical.
So can I just ask a question? Are you headed for a motion tonight, or you were saying something of putting something
Oh,
on the
I mean,
agenda for town
potentially,
meeting,
I
or
mean,
what's?
town meeting's coming up. I mean, we vote on the budget, we vote on a couple other things, and then it's not uncommon for other motions to come up to just ask the town for support, whether it's, better energy efficiency or, we're against hot air balloons.
So the way to go for this? Is
It,
a
I mean,
sense of the
it at least gets it starts the ball rolling and it gets some
It's
discussion.
publicity.
Yeah, it's
Well, I think
publicity,
that's
and it
great.
says,
It's
and then you can say, hey, look, at town meeting, it was supported, 150 to 25 or something.
So are you suggesting they do it from the floor and make this,
Or,
or is it
or,
on the
I mean,
warning?
potentially, we could come up with the wording.
Yeah.
And it could go right into the warning,
It
if the
would
select board
save us
approves
a
it.
lot of grief if you guys put it on the warning, because otherwise we have to petition, we're too late for a petition
Right.
anyway.
Yeah,
So,
so we have till next week, right? To
For
put
the
some
warning.
wording
We
in
would
there.
have.
And that's assuming the select board would approve that.
What exactly would the warning be?
yeah, that's where I was
It would
trying
just
to.
say,
I mean,
I think it could just be that, do the voters support the concept of, and future funding for a sidewalk to connect with the
Improve
sidewalk.
safety and
Improve
connectivity.
safety and connectivity along the Richmond Road, something like that. So people will read it in the town warning if they don't come to town meeting. Or, we can just make it in our select board report that we've talked with the Trails Committee, kind of giving a preview of upcoming projects of what we're thinking about doing, and we can say that we're looking to appoint people.
I think that's more effective than having an article to vote on. I don't.
I actually
Just
like having an
personal.
article to vote on.
Actually is helpful for financing.
But it's
Yeah,
not,
I agree
it's
with
not
you.
gonna be a
It's not
budget
gonna-
item.
No.
No,
I'm
but
saying for
it-
grant fund money.
Yeah, I
And
mean,
it
I
makes
hear what
people
you're saying.
aware.
I kind of like it. It starts to get the ball rolling. So I suppose if any of the select board members want to work on it, we'd have to get it into Renee's hands before next week, so the select board could look at it, and if it is something,
Could it mention the creation of an ad hoc committee, a citizen
Sure.
committee? Or,
it could. We encourage
funding,
the town to move forward with, any exploring all options to improve the safety of children, of the safety of citizens, coming down Richmond Road, something like that. So
Yeah, I've been spending the last month reviewing LW Land and Water Conservation Fund grants, and it is one of the things that we look for is these, select board votes.
Yes.
And citizen votes.
That's right.
And, that is
Yeah.
on the agenda
So-
and stuff, so.
if it did come, next week, the select board would have to decide whether they want to put it on there or not. So
But I think
be
we're
up to the
all in
select board.
agreement that we're willing to make some statements about support.
Yeah, one way or the other. It will
Yeah.
definitely be in the town,
Yeah.
the town report, so. All right? Anything else on that? Thank you for bringing that forward. I think I said it before, it's good to hold our feet to the fire on items like that because it's easy to push them aside and get,
Right,
get caught up in new dump truck or something.
right. So it's kind of like, yeah.
All right. So, the next item on the agenda is a discussion on the, forming a committee for the search, for a new police chief, as our police chief Frank is stepping down in June or June-ish. He's flexible on that.
For retirement.
For retirement, yes. So I think we were gonna reach out to citizens, and I don't know if we wanna go around the room, or
We're gonna
thoughts.
reach out, or we were gonna just.
We
come
we
up
were
with
just gonna
names?
come with names, yeah, sorry for that.
I put my name in for that. I'd be more than happy to sit on a search committee for a chief of police. If I'm-
Thank you. And you know a thing or two about that.
I was a police
already.
officer for 21 years. I probably know a lot of the people that would apply,
You very well might.
which is a good thing too,
Yeah.
which you may not always hear.
So that gets the ball rolling right there. I had said that I was going to sort of think about a timeline, which is basically just driven by the date that Frank had told us he wanted to retire, which was the end of the fiscal year. Is that correct, Frank? Like, you're looking somewhere thereabouts of June 30th.
During the month of June. sometime.
During the month of June, yeah. So I had that in mind of getting, for discussion, I have this in mind for discussion, to have a committee formed and an ad posted by the end of this month. That way it gives us the month of February to pull in whatever we get from casting out, which gives us the month of March to kind of go through it, make decisions about yeses and nos, and start reaching out. So that way, by the time we're in the middle of February, or April, we have a good idea it's gonna be this, or this person, or whatever the number is. And then we can finalize that, so that way we're looking at June 1st, we have made a decision, maybe perhaps even made it public, and that allows for that candidate to have a month or thereabouts. This is a little squishy, a week here and there, to be able to come in, to leave their current position if they're in one, and to come into ours for the end of June. And that's kind of what I had in mind. I'm thinking that's enough time for us, but I guess it all depends on how many and quality of applicants. I'm pretty optimistic that we're going to have interest in this, and that we're going to have some really interesting candidates who it's going to make us think about this. I don't think it's going to be any preconceived notions about where we're going to go, because this committee will have some good conversations about what we as a town like in the services that we have currently. We could compare and contrast, right, to what we have currently, what we would like different, if there is anything. And the individual who would take over this role, as an example, is somebody nearing the end of their career and then going to blip out, somebody who's maybe first-time chief and is looking to build their career, maybe somebody in the middle who's looking to stay put 10 years, 15 years, something like this. So it all kind of depends on who we get as candidates, but I think there's a good preliminary discussion, I think, that we could have, certainly as a committee and certainly as a board, to help Renee with this conversation as to what the next police chief, who the next police chief will be, and set the tone for that department.
Well, you said maybe by February we'd be able to post the job. I don't even think we're close to that. We're gonna put the committee together. It's gonna take at least 2 to 4 weeks to put together, I think, a job description.
You think so?
And it's discussing those things. What are we looking for? Is it what we're looking for is sort of what we had? Or is there, I don't know, somebody thinking anything different? I mean, I think that's going to be a big piece of it, is getting that job description correct. And so putting the committee together really is going to take 2 weeks at this point, because we haven't named anybody yet. So I was hoping we'd have a timeline that would sort of have these bullets, and then about how much time for each item, and So we came today saying, were there people we wanted to recommend? So I reached out to Deb Howard, who said that she has some time commitments in the next month or so. So probably can't jump into this, but I would reserve her to be used as a sort of a consultant. She's been on a couple of our searches before and has worked well in that, I think worked well in that environment. And I think that we had 2 select board members. You had said you were interested.
I'm interested. I
And,
don't know if I said it, but I am.
Yeah. And I'm all right with Tom.
That's-
Yeah. So
that's
we've
fine.
got 2 select board members. Is there anybody else that were?
I was also going to recommend Deb Howard. She was really helpful.
So I reached out to her, so she can't jump right in, but I think she's willing to help in that she might be able to look at the job description, get some feedback, but may not be able to attend the meetings right away.
I reached out to another individual and they were very interested in this as well.
Okay? So,
And then I think other, department heads or other people, staff.
right.
that-
And I know Frank has said he was interested, and we've heard from Ray, so maybe.
Maybe Chief Barber might be interested.
Yeah, so there's a few people that are interested. I would maybe suggest that, Renee, you reach out to department heads and sort of at least tell us who's interested.
Yep, and I'll give you the list of some people that I have also.
Okay. All right.
Yes, Alex?
So why do we need a committee to come up with a job ad? Job ads are short.
That's what I was
They
thinking.
refer to existing job descriptions, which I think we already have. We've hired police chiefs multiple times since I've been here. It's not a new thing for us. Well, why couldn't we pursue Aaron's time horizon to just post the ad? And then the committee is formed and they talk about the process they want to go through, but at least, the ad is out there for several weeks collecting applications. Just
Oh, no, that's, all right, I'll put that, put that open
I think it's
for
always
discussion.
good to review the job description, because I think it's important that you look at what the job description was and then what's the job that's being done. And, what do we see as things that we want to maybe change a little bit, or not. So, I think it doesn't, we're not reinventing the wheel, obviously, but it is a good idea to look at it and look at what past candidates have been and what the fit was. I think it's somewhere in between what Aaron has suggested and what Phil has, but I do think that it's important that that a committee have a chance to look at the the existing job description and have a little bit of input into, what you're suggesting is that the ad can be simple, and then when people look at it, maybe we have something different posted on the website. But it's not just
I'm just concerned that if a committee's formed and they decide, we think the police chief position should go in a slightly different direction, that's gotta come back to the select board. You have to decide whether that's in the best interest of the community. Meanwhile, the job hiring process is stalled. It's similar to the feedback I gave you when we were hiring for a town administrator. I think that you can work with applicants to describe what the town's looking for once their applications are in the door and you're going through the interview process, and you can be honest with them if there's some desire to, have a slightly different arrangement or job description, but unless it's a very different job altogether, I think a chief of police is a chief of police, and there's.
Yeah, and I would further say that this job description also is somewhat flexible right up until the time that the 2 parties agree, or it can be flexible right up to the time the 2 parties agree. So if there is a job description written out and there is a specific point in that description that is in there that isn't going to happen, but that candidate is really wanted, you adjust as a scenario.
Well,
So,
so I'll put out an example, and I think it's probably a mix. I'm not trying to slow the process down by any means, but so we have Frank Koss, who I say does a great job in my opinion, and one of the benefits that I see in a town like this is we have the police chief who's also on the fire department. So what relationship do we want the police chief to have with our fire department. Now, I'm not saying he has to be an active member, but actively involved. And I'm not sure the job description that Frank has or Renee has says that.
I'm sure it does. It's a good point.
So to me, it would say, hey, this police chief does police chief stuff and also is actively involved in our fire department, whether it's attends the monthly meetings or is a member, or I'm not sure what it is. Same with the rescue, the medical rescue. Frank's an active member. I would think the police chief in that job description would say something, because we want somebody who's, not just in their own. I'm just speaking for myself, not just in their own. Just has the police to worry about, has the whole town to worry about. So.
No, I think it's a good point, and I think it's one that can be discussed and kind of hammered through within the committee. But this middle path idea that we're talking about here, I think, is valid. That what Alex is saying, what I'm saying, is it shouldn't stop us from getting this thing posted.
Well, I would suggest we get. I don't know. What are other people thinking? So one thing on the table is pull out the job description. Somebody reviews it. Make sure, dust it off, make sure it makes sense.
At least Renee and
It's
Frank.
that, and we post it, and where we post it, I don't know. Somebody's got to decide that. Or we pull together a committee quickly, and, the first step would be them looking at this job description and deciding that it's correct or modification, and then where it's going to get posted.
I would just add to that is, look at the job description. Maybe we can ask Frank to write up a description of what he does, how he sees his job today, what his tasks are, and how he sees his job, and just compare them to begin with, so that we can at least start from what we thought we had as a job description to what we actually do have as a job description, and modify that. I mean, I think that's important, and then.
Yeah, because that tells us what we're actually getting currently, right?
Right,
Yeah.
right. And we can accurately advertise if we all support the job that's being done, then we craft the job description based on what we actually have.
But I don't think we need to wait for the final crafting of the job description before we post it. I think the sooner we post it, the better.
All right. Well, you guys are the committee now.
Did we just get a point?
Well, I mean, you're hit the ball. You got to move with this.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, you have a comment.
I participated in the hiring of 2 police chiefs in Burlington. And this job is unique, hands down. But I think, Alex is on, lead right, panel, plane. If we just get the basic qualifications of the person that you're looking for and get those qualified people, then that process of weeding people out, we'll be able to find the right fit. I think that if you narrowly tailor it, for example, a police chief who is EMT certified, and this is it, I think if you narrowly tailor that, you may weed people out that could be a great fit. So I think, so what are the qualifications? You want somebody with command experience. You want somebody with a community-based experience. You want somebody that's a working chief or has worked, whatever it is that the qualifications are. Get that pool of applicants in and then weed them out. And if time isn't of the essence, then you can take it as long as you want. It's a great department. You got great guys and girls there that can carry on without a chief, I guess. But if you want to get one on, by the time the chief leaves, then folks maybe moving, from other states. Is this going to be a national search? Are you going to search nationally for a chief? Well, there's lots of things that have to get going now if you want to get it going. Big move.
That's the whole purpose of giving this much notice, is there's no reason why you can't fill this job before I leave.
I would agree with Alex and Ray. Let's post it, dust it off like you said. I think, I'm not sure how many people we want on the committee, but we know we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in the room
Six.
right now.
Renee?
6.
Yeah, Renee's office, Renee or,
Give it a quick glance, post it. I agree with Ray that you'll be able to weed through it and choose. If you let everybody know exactly what you want, there's always the chance they could just, I'm not gonna say lie, but
yeah.
tailor their interview to exactly what's on the.
That's right.
Yeah,
And a job
I think
description.
the key word that Ray used was qualifications. So what are the qualifications we're looking for? And then the description is something different than the qualifications. So,
Good point.
So does that still fit with Aaron's timeline?
Timeline?
I would say so.
Yeah, it's a lot of work, but, let's get to it, right?
yeah.
I mean, there is time. Frank is allowing that. So there is time.
The bigger the kid, the best.
Yeah.
Is it
Okay.
now? All right, thanks.
Thanks,
We
Ray.
know how to get a hold of you?
Huh?
We know how to get a hold of you?
Oh, yeah,
Yes, that is.
email,
Renee-
phone
Renee's
numbers.
got it? Okay.
I do.
Ray, did you sign the attendance sheet? Thank you.
All right, anything else? So it sounds like in the next week or two, the job description could be posted, maybe. Any more discussion?
Or an
No?
ad for a job can be posted.
Yeah, that's right, yeah. Next item on the agenda is the capital budget and general fund discussion. So we have a couple packets, couple things in our packet. One is the latest budget spreadsheets, both expenditures and, I always say income, revenue.
Revenue.
I always call it income. And then the capital narrative, I guess. So how do we want to just go down through as you've got them listed here?
Yeah, yes, because we have Alex here, so we'll start with the planning and zoning budget.
Quick question, Renee.
Yep.
Does the proposed budget include the transfers?
Well, there's some of them that, yes, it does, but there's still some that we would need to talk about tonight if we want to include. So there's some other proposed transfers that we haven't included in the budget yet.
Okay.
That need to be discussed tonight.
So right now, the budget with the revenues, estimated revenues, and the budget as presented in this sheet shows a 2.59% overall increase.
Which sheet are you looking at?
The very front. If you look at the first.
FY20 proposed budget draft,
The first number 7?
Number 7.
The second number 7.
number 7.
It's the
Yeah.
second number 7 on my list,
I had a few questions as we go down through it.
or maybe it's the third.
So we're gonna go right to planning and zoning.
Yeah.
That is on page 3, 63, line 63.
So I think, in Alex's salary line, he had put a 2.5%. I made it consistent with, so it's
They're all
reflective
three.
of 3% to match all of them.
In the salary and wages
In the
line?
salary and wages. line.
Okay.
What you see right there is is increase from what Alex had shown in his budget, just to make it consistent with the other ones.
So across the board, they now show 3%.
Correct. So the only line item that we're discussing differently tonight is the 8,000 on the special projects line, line 74, versus the 6,700 that you saw last time. And Alex already explained.
Yeah,
Because
and-
of UPWP.
And I think there was support for that from the board.
But then there was the other memo that Alex sent about increasing the amount that we might need for the light at Charlotte
Right.
Road.
Yep.
Do we want to have that discussion now?
So that was-
Might
That's
as well,
that's
Alex
in
is
the
here.
current budget.
Yeah, so that's the
Right?
50,000.
No.
No,
No,
So what we're talking about is,
that's the one I was confused with. I thought
Yeah.
with that was that,
so
but
on
now we're going to
December
talk about it.
17th, I talked about how much it might be in the next fiscal year to implement the improvement to the 116 Charlotte Road intersection.
But that that engineering stuff is in the works now, isn't it?
It is happening now.
Yes.
We don't have the part of the result of the study that's happening now will be a firm sort of cost estimate.
Budget.
But the timing isn't syncing up. If we want to do the project in the next fiscal year, we needed the cost estimate now so you could put it in your budget.
Right.
So you said, well, if we do want to do it, what's the ballpark? And I said, well, it just
26
put
or
20,
something.
put
Yeah,
20 in. And when I talked to the RPC, they said, put 50 in.
Yeah.
So, that's up to you whether you want to budget any money, 20, 50 or whatever, to go towards actually completing that project in the next fiscal year, or if you want to wait until the following fiscal year to
So
budget for it.
if we waited, we'd probably have a firm number, but the price will go up probably in
You'd have
another
a better
year.
number, the price might go up. Then again, if Hannaford actually
That's
gets
right.
resolved, they
Right.
might do it, and then we might not have to. But
Yep.
Hannaford is potentially a years
2
out
years, 3 years
project.
down,
So
yeah.
if there's commitment to solving what is one of the biggest issues with our traffic flow in the village, I'd recommend you budget for it if you think the town can afford it
Right.
in this fiscal year. The upcoming fiscal year.
Well, we can also do it as a capital, but, I mean, we can do it in 2 years. If it's 50, we can put 20 in this year and, or 25 in this year and 25 in the
We could.
following year. So that we will have a realistic budget when this study is complete. I'm in favor of at least putting 25 in, if not the whole amount. Because realistically, when this study's complete, there's gonna have to get the review by VTrans.
VTrans.
There's gonna be other permitting
Delays.
stuff that's gonna delay, but let's put money in the budget to make it happen.
Mm-hmm.
So, I appreciate Alex's effort to get a more realistic number.
Yeah.
But if we wanna
Here's
see it.
Yeah, and it sounds like I just keep wanting to put different things on the warning. I mean, I could potentially see us having a warned item that says, does the town want to spend up to $50,000 based on the cost to move forward with this project, which we've been talking about now for 5 years or more.
More than that, we
more
were
than
talking
that.
about it before Hannaford.
Yeah, and with the really caveat that this potentially, if we just do nothing, could be paid by Hannaford's. Maybe. I mean, that's what the plan is. But that's at least a couple years away at best. Or do the people in town feel the traffic is bad enough and believe that this would be worth that extra penny in their taxes? So that's, one way I think we could go about doing it and let the taxpayers understand that potentially somebody else might have to pay for it if it went that direction. That it could cost up to 50, maybe it'll be less. But they would authorize us to move it as fast as we can.
I like that idea.
At least then you can have a discussion about it.
Yeah. Yeah, because there are some questions. It's like, well, how do we know this is going to work, right? I mean, and so
Well,
we'd have to pull out the
scoping study.
scoping
Yep.
study and the report that said this is, one thing that's holding up traffic, particularly in the afternoon.
And
Especially in the afternoon.
What's the status of the work that's being done now?
It's only just beginning. So VHB is the consultant, and they have an authorization to start, but their schedule puts them through probably May.
Yeah,
as
but we
completing
could,
it.
we could ask for it to be done sooner.
Oh, I did.
Okay.
I did.
And,
I'm
VHB has all the information.
I'm pushing for that.
Okay.
The RPC staff person who's managing the project, is saying we'll do it as fast as we can, but it's probably not going to be ready for town meeting. It'll probably be after that before we have a realistic number and a
Well, really,
conceptual
we would
design.
need it in another week, so
Right.
we're not gonna have it in a
Right, but
week.
if we, even if we had it in March, we could, if we had other information in March, we can speak to it from the floor.
We actually can't finalize the warning until the 28th, so there's
Right.
a,
Oh, right,
Right.
we can't
But
go
I mean, we
too
can
early,
put an
so we got a
item,
couple
we can,
weeks.
I'm not opposed to putting an item, a warning, an article.
It could be
I'm just-
adjusted.
It can be adjusted,
Right.
we can bring information to the floor when it's being discussed, and I feel like the more
Yeah,
information, if we
Right,
have
if
it,
we
we can
have
do it, otherwise, we don't know, because we generally don't warn an article until we have, a little bit firmer number. And that way, if we were putting 25 in this year, doing it in a capital budgeting way, when it comes to next year's time, we would have a firm number, and we could
And-
do it.
well, we would have spent some of the 25.
would have spent
So
s-
we're committing the town
Right.
to either having half a project or
Well,
paying
we
for the
wouldn't
whole
have
thing.
spent it, we would just put it in the budget, but if we don't move ahead, we're collecting the money, but
You're saying we wouldn't use it even
we wouldn't
for
use it until
part of
we
it.
actually build it.
Yeah, I think the only benefit of what Andrew's suggesting is spreading the
cost.
fiscal
Yeah.
pain over
Yeah.
2 fiscal years rather than doing it all at once. But that does delay the project necessarily if it comes in over the 25,000. So you're basically saying we're not going to do this project until 2022.
Right,
Yeah.
but I'm saying that even if we put it in, we have to go through V-Trans and get permits to do this, and that is, the engineer's already telling us we're not gonna get it till May. So then you have to go to V-Trans, so that means we might not get an answer from them for another 2 or 3 months. So then we're in October
Fall,
or something like that. So my sense is that, I mean, I don't see any harm in warning it as an article, but I think we have to be realistic about how long this project, even though there's like all that information's there, we've had this since, before Hannaford's that we were wanting to do
It's not
this.
entirely in our control.
Yeah. I mean, it is in our control and how much we push it and how
But
much
that
we put
process,
money on it, yeah.
Right. I mean, the reason it's not done now is, if my memory said, geez, let's not spend money on it, we think Hannaford's gonna pay for it.
Yeah.
That was part
I mean,
of the
part of
thinking,
it,
certainly,
yeah.
absolutely.
I don't know
And
what the
that still
people,
might be the case, but it's gonna take a little time, it appears. Or at least it has.
Right,
let's
well,
say.
that's the thing is like, we could have done this,
Right.
6 or 7 years ago. So I'm saying that yes, Hannaford's may do it, but it will be at least 2 years for them. We might get it done 1 year earlier. So maybe people are willing to wait 2 years and not spend any money. So it's
well,
obviously
I mean,
something that
that's
can be
why,
talked
as a
about.
separate item,
Yep.
the reason I like it as a separate item is because people have to understand, the expectation at one point would be the developer would have to pay for it because it was on the DRB and their traffic study. So, people have to understand, no, we're not relying on that. We're asking the taxpayers to do it because the reason we'd ask is because traffic is such an issue and it may never get solved without it. So I think what's on the table is, do we make it a separate item? And then how much do we put in it? Or do we just add 25 or a number to our budget line item for capital that says someday, when we can, do the, fix this intersection.
I like the idea of making it a separate item. It gets the whole town involved, and in a way, we're taking a risk on the future. Nobody knows what the future's gonna bring, but everybody knows the traffic today is horrendous in Hinesburg, and it would be good to have some relief. I'm not convinced this is gonna help a lot, but I hope I'm wrong. So if the town votes on it, and then Hannaford's comes through, and then everybody can say, oh, well, we shouldn't have done that. But if Hannaford's doesn't come through, it's the townspeople who've made that decision, and I like that idea.
You bring up a good point, though, like how good of an idea is this? You know, I kind of waffle on that a little bit myself.
Well, it came out of the traffic study
Yeah.
that we had done.
You mean, how much positive
Improvement.
impact will it have on traffic flow? All I can tell you is that the scoping study for Route 116 said that the two projects that were in the
Sure.
pipeline would lead to a 20% reduction in wait times during the peak hour. So we need, it didn't tease them apart. It didn't say that the Charlotte
This
Road intersection would be
10 and
X
10 or
percent and the CDU
could
Road
be
intersection
18%
would
and
be
2.
Y percent. But it said by doing those two, the models predict it would
Yeah.
be a 20% reduction. And it went on to say that all the other good things we're thinking of in terms of interconnected networks of streets as we build out will have a far lesser impact than these two.
Meaning it singled them out as the big
projects.
things. And
And the
Go for
CDU
it.
intersection is happening,
Yep.
albeit still 2 years away.
Right.
Yeah.
it's been happening for 2 years now.
Hopefully 2020 completion, but
Yeah.
I talked to
Yeah.
somebody. who was-
2020, that'd be 2
They
years.
renewed all their permits. It's back on their tables.
All right, so what do we want to
good.
do with this? I'm for a separate warrant item. And I
I just want to make
put
sure
out
that
there.
it doesn't impact any of the DRB decisions and conditions of the DRB, so we might want to just check with the lawyer.
Yeah, that's a good point. Does this meddle with anything that's
Yeah.
already sort of
We'll
been
make
agreed
sure that
upon?
if, if we say we're doing it, then Hannaford's is off the hook. So let's just check with the lawyer.
And we're gonna ask, if we build this, do they have to pay for it afterwards?
Or, well, or does that not become a condition of their, I mean, could they reimburse us? Could they, let's just,
That's
No.
the question.
ask the question, yeah.
I can do that. I can reach out to David. So I will do that. And,
Just so we can
I
be
guess we
clear
don't
with
need a motion to
voters.
decide whether to do this. I think if I reach out to him and he says, here are some options, here, there's probably no answer. He's a lawyer.
Right,
There's no answer. I can share that information and we can decide next
yeah.
week whether we move forward with it. Maybe I'll put
Agreed.
together some language on a possible
Yeah.
warrant item.
Great, thank you. Thanks.
Anything else for planning and zoning? I had a question on the revenue side. I don't think we talked about it much, but there is revenue for permitting and stuff. I think we had 27,000 in there.
no, I think, Renee, do you have a revenue spreadsheet or not?
Yeah,
Yep,
You're finding it? Okay.
we have it in here,
Which
right?
number is it?
it's on the same.
Oh,
all
it's
on
not,
one
yeah, it's at the
line.
bottom. Yep, yep.
Page 11, 12.
Right. So
What
it's just,
we had, while Renee's bringing it up, what we have in the current fiscal year is 35,000 in total planning and zoning related revenue. And what I'd recommended was increasing that to 40,000
total.
total. Yeah, a $5,000 increase based on what our actuals were the year before. We had a very good year. We brought in 51,000.
Yep.
And the years prior were closer to 35 or 40, so I think, again, being conservative, I think it makes sense to bump it up, but maybe not go all the way up to 50, just
Yeah.
bring it up in
Okay.
a conservative way, which hopefully will help,
Yeah.
offset
And
some
you're
of the budgetary
feeling-
okay,
expense
yeah.
increases.
Right,
That's
so I
what's up
noticed
there.
that it had gone up, but, I see,
He increased the DRB applications from 5,000 to 10,000, so that was the $5,000 difference.
okay.
If it makes you feel any better, as of the 6-month mark this fiscal year, we've already met the projection for DRB revenue. So we may, if things continue, double that line item, which supports increasing it, in the next
Yep.
fiscal year.
Okay, and you've increased it slightly, so that's good, all right. Any questions on that? And anything else on planning and zoning and technology? Do we want to talk about technology?
Certainly talk about that.
Should get a new projector.
Projector, we probably should
What
price
line
out.
is technology?
I think that was a
Didn't we already-
different
didn't we
budget.
already say that,
Yeah.
that we were gonna do that?
I think we set it as it's like a part of, it's not even a budget item, but just go do it, kind of an item, as
Yeah,
I
I mean,
recall from our conversations.
Yes.
Do you remember, didn't we look at prices maybe last year?
I haven't
Yeah.
looked at it
It's been a
recently,
long
no.
time, yeah.
If I had to guess, it's probably a $500
Yeah, I mean, it's
expense.
certainly something that we could do, and like we talked
That's
about
just
last
the light
time, is
bulb.
having this as a backup if it indeed continues to work.
Oh, town hall technology is line 221. So it starts on page 7, goes to page 8. And I think, were we working on the website?
Mm-hmm.
And hopefully being able to complete that with the capital?
And combined with last year's
Yeah.
number.
Any other questions on this? And computer hardware, there was a reason you had dropped it.
Yes, because we're replacing the server this year, and that's why it's a high number, and next year we won't be replacing the server, just regular old computers. So Renee and I have talked about adjusting the capital transfer and the hardware line items so that we're still saving for the next server in
Yeah.
5 years.
Okay.
I think you've got that all in there, right, Renee?
Yep, so I, in the capital improvement plan. let's see.
So we're not cloud-based, huh?
We're not, and it's funny, Renee and I were just talking about that the other day as I'm working with the
Okay,
tech
thank
group
you.
on the new server, and they gave us a quote on what that would cost to be cloud-based instead of having hard drives that we take
Right.
home and all that, and it's an additional $2,700 a year to be in the cloud. It's a monthly $120 a month or something like that fee, so as neat as that is, I don't think it's worth the money for our operation. So I'm gonna talk to them about keeping the cost down by continuing to do what's been successful over the last, 10 years.
So currently, if you look at the capital improvement plan, so what's in blue, this is what's happening in FY '20. So I have, for the server, nothing for FY '20, nothing for FY '21 or FY '22, and then FY '23 will start the 2,000. Because if you look to the far left, there's 6,500 in capital reserves. And so, the server, the total cost was,
So for this time around, we projected 10,000, it's probably gonna be closer to 12. So for the next server, we should project 12 or so, I would think.
and we would be replacing again in,
5 years from
5
this
years.
fiscal year, and this
Yeah.
is FY 19, so FY 24.
okay. So then we should put 2,000. So, but,
I think that Renee's point is that we have some balance and we have some in the annual budget. We should have some extra that we can move
Yeah.
forward for the next one, so we don't need to budget. We don't need to budget as much in the capital transfer for this coming fiscal year.
Okay. Is there any other discussion on technology? So the website will have what we think is enough this year coming up
Yeah.
and upgrade it, I guess. What's the process for that?
Look to your left.
Okay. I thought that was the process, but I've already looked that way a couple times and I didn't want to get kicked this time. So,
What is the process for
Yeah.
bringing it online?
yeah.
Choosing the vendor, or finalizing the choice of the vendor, working through whatever contract we need to work through with, because it is cloud-based, of course, that's the nature of it, right? Whatever contract we need to, review, which I'll do with Renee, or somebody of her choosing. And finalize the deal, and then the process of bringing over what's on the current site to the new. Probably not all of it will go. Maybe, I mean, there'll be a plan in place to do that. There's a fair amount of sort of dead wood there, I would imagine. That doesn't necessarily need it, but there's a lot of deep archive stuff which is still valuable. And I think that even in some form, maybe everything that's currently there can still sit somewhere,
Place.
even if it isn't sort of graphically laid out, but rather maybe just in sort of some sort of file structure. You know, some plan along that line, depending on the technology and what all is easy and available. But the primary focus will be on getting that. And in addition to that, sort of January 1st and getting that, or July 1st and getting all that laid out, is getting the timeline laid out for like hitting those milestones so that project stays on task.
So you'll have the money come July.
Yeah.
So do you think that maybe by the beginning of next year it might be done? Like 6 months or more like a year?
I'm having in my mind the goal. I guess I haven't sort of fully formalized the timeline, but before budget season starts, so that allows July, August, September, October.
Yeah.
You know, that way it does two things. It's not something that is occupying my time when I should be doing other things, or I need to be doing other things. And two, it also allows it to be a new, better tool for those exercises.
So Aaron, the 7,500 is what you think is gonna be enough to do it?
I'm thinking so.
Okay. So I don't need to put any more in the following year for the website, or are there other
They'll be
things?
ongoing, you know, kind of like what Alex was just describing, you know, the 27, I don't know what the number will be, but $2,700 is sort of the ongoing yearly thing to keep us in the cloud. Well, the website will have sort of an ongoing yearly, you know, subscription.
So should there be, in the capital improvement plan, should I go out beyond and is?
Like 2,500 a year or so?
Yeah, so let's say
That's
some,
not capital
but,
improvement.
Yeah,
but that's the only thing I would say is that
So
would be
this is
just,
just maintenance you're talking about?
yeah, this is just, well, not even maintenance. Well, I mean, maybe it'd be
But
under
it's
that
not-
category, but it would just be the cost of having it, right? Like, you know,
So not anything in capital though?
probably not in
Okay.
capital.
What does it cost us now each year? Do you know?
Right now, it just sits on an FTP site, so it's very,
Oh,
very
okay.
inexpensive. It's
Okay.
it's just there's nothing there but a bunch of files that have been
Mm-hmm.
coded to make it show up on a browser.
Okay.
You know, so it's not a fair assessment to look at between now what it is now and what it will be, because you're not. It's kind of comparing a horse to a Ferrari.
Okay.
I guess is one sort of really drastic way to put it. Or
So we're getting a Ferrari.
But we spend about 5,000 on
yeah.
on operations and maintenance of it
Yeah.
each year.
Yeah. Okay.
You're just saying there's not a lot of fancy peripherals. That's
It's not
mostly
even- it's
just
not even
your
fancy,
that's
it's just-
mostly just your labor.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just
Yep.
kind of there. Yeah, so.
All right. Anything else on planning and zoning? And technology? Nope. All right, so we can jump ahead. So we could skip highway since there's, oh, no, Mike's here. So we'll jump ahead to highway. Sorry. I didn't see you there.
I
And,
could go home.
so we'll jump to highway. Are there any big changes since the last week? Or the last time we looked at
Well,
it?
we just need to discuss the capital expenditures. So we talked about, we have the payments that are already in there and the things we already had in there, but there were additional items that we had talked about when we discussed the highway budget that we need to consider. And so those are the things I'd like you guys to decide. And Mike had put an order of priority as the screen plant being, if he had to choose one of them, that would be the first one.
So what are they, yeah, so if we go to that capital plan, we can see the options in front of us.
That's it.
The narrative or the
Spreadsheet.
spreadsheet are we looking
The
at?
spreadsheet, but if you look at his highway budget, when he was at the meeting, there was a list in one of the tabs of the extra
okay.
items.
So that wasn't in our packet this time, it was in the previous
It's in the
packet.
previous one, the December 20, let's see, December 17th, maybe. I think I know them by heart, though.
Yeah,
So the, so the screen plant was the first one, the mulcher would be the second. And the third was the case tractor. And then the 2009 dump truck would be the other one. So those would be the
Which
additional.
was saving for the next, not,
be-
it wasn't an expenditure this year, it's saving up for the next time.
Right.
And are those all in this budget that we're seeing?
No, so none of those additional ones are in there, but you just need to decide. So if he was saying for the screen plant, looking at used ones, approximately $70,000. So if you wanted to put 35,000 in this year and 35,000 in next year, is an option. The mulcher, just say 5,000 for a used one.
See, I was thinking that we should put the screener in the capital budget, but we should also put some money in the tractor one. You know, like not to, it's still working, but why not put $5,000 in there and start stocking it away? And the mulcher, you know, I think, if it's just $5,000, cost of it to buy this year, then, because right now he's having to rent it, and so there's a fair amount of travel time to go back and forth, and then it could maybe get seeded and mulched quicker.
Didn't I tell you that the name today? Andrea?
Yep, he did.
So I'm kind of in favor of trying to put something in the capital budget for all three of those things.
So now we have capital transfer, well, most of it's the building, of 438.
438, 973,
And
84.
so we're talking about another 40,000?
So another
No.
eight, well, if you did everything, the screen plant was 35,000, the case tractor, we were saying maybe 20,000 is actually what we talked about in the, if we were trying to replace it in FY '21.
Right. But let's,
But if we wanted to just do smaller
I was
increments,
thinking smaller, because, I mean, the tractor may go a little bit longer. So if we at least put 5 in this year and 5 in next year, and, you know, and then maybe we have to put in 10 or 15, or, I think it's better to put a little bit in there, not zero it out, because it's keeping it in our mind.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, I would agree if we know it's coming. What
Right.
about the screen plant? What's the total cost of that?
70
Roughly
something.
70,000.
And are we thinking we do it over 2 years?
I mean, we could do that longer too. I mean, but by doing the screen plant, we're gonna reduce the amount that we contract out for it.
Right, no,
So-
it made sense, just, another $50,000 in capital,
Yeah,
it's probably a sensitive subject.
yeah.
How much do we spend a year in screening?
15,000.
15,000. My only reservation with this one is it's a big expense, and if it's used, there's a much better chance it's going to break down.
You don't buy brand new one?
No, I don't, but
Triple that number.
Well, I
I
think
get
that
it.
if it breaks down,
It's
it's,
not gonna be just for the winter's hand. I mean, we're looking at down the road here with all the riprapping we're doing.
You're saying
We're just gonna
recycling.
keep buying riprap, or we're gonna start screening it back out and reusing it. You know, that'd be a big plus, because right now, we're just crushing it. Anything we already had in the ditches that we have to dig out, we just put it in the pile when the crusher comes in, we crush it. Then we have to go buy new stuff. So, I'm looking at it that we can screen that out and reuse it, instead of doing $5,000 and $10,000 worth of riprap every year.
I mean, one way we could think about it is, continue with contracting it and put $15,000 in and do it over 4 years to buy a new one. Of course, the used one that you're
used one.
looking at may not be there.
Right.
But, because what we're gonna have to do this year is, or until we buy it, we're gonna be spending on contracting and budgeting for it. You know, so we're gonna,
Right.
it's gonna take us a while to
Yeah.
get, to see that expense reduced of 15. But
And how much is the mulcher?
5,
Yours was 5,000.
So that would be just a purchase.
Yep.
So there's 3 items there. What else was there? Screen plant, tractor, mulcher, and the truck. The new dump. Which we'd just be putting money aside for, knowing it's coming.
Right.
Have we put any aside yet for that?
No, not for
'Cause
the
we've been
old.
leasing them.
no, we're still,
And how much were you thinking about
For the
dump,
dump truck,
replacement dump?
yeah, let's tab that out. So when we had talked, we had put 25,000 if we wanted to start saving for it early, depending on how long you think that one's gonna last.
which dump truck are we talking about?
The 2009 or 2010, which,
Yeah,
there it is.
Thoughts, Mary Lee?
can I ask a question on the dump truck, the 2014 Mack? It says the final payment in the narrative you have is the final payment is due in FY '20, but then down below you have FY '21.
And that's in the narrative.
Yeah,
Mhm.
so wasn't sure which one.
Let's see. If you also look, here, let me pull up, whoops. If you look at the tabs, there's also an equipment tab on there, and that should have to the right meeting here. That's the narrative. So on the bottom, the equipment, FY 2024 equipment schedule. In which Mac did you say?
The
The
2014.
2014 Mac. The last payment's 21, it shows.
Yeah. So
So the narrative, you said one
it
place.
says the first sentence says 20, FY '20.
Okay,
So that just,
okay,
I
the
guess it's
narrative.
just an editing problem. I was
Yeah.
hoping that maybe it was the other way around.
Right, right.
So I'm looking for thoughts or input from the board here. And, you know, I mean, these are all good ideas. I'm just very sensitive about the budget and about, you know, moving forward with another 85,000 in capital. That'll bring this up over 500,000 in capital. Because we, you know, the building will go down a little bit over time.
Yeah.
They're, you know, all good ideas. I think the screen plant makes sense. The tractor does. The mulcher, I think, in my mind, is a no-brainer. And starting to save for the dump truck is a good idea.
I think it might be one of those situations where we can pack it all in the budget and take a look at it. But I think what you're saying holds some water, that it's gonna start getting ballooned. Just based on what we've talked about tonight. I mean, it's all good. But the bottom line is, the budget has to pass, or it's.
Well, we don't have to decide today. I mean,
No.
we could put it in. So what do we want to put in? We want to put in the 85? Or do we want to trim it down a little bit, because we probably are going to trim it down a little bit anyways?
Well, when I'm looking at it, I'm thinking what's essential. I hear what Mike's saying about the screen plant, that it would be really helpful to have it, and it's getting increasingly difficult to contract that out, but could we get by without it? I'm not sure we could get by without the other requests.
The screen plant, if we did do that, though, we would be saving in the gravel, inner winter sand line in the regular, in his regular budget.
I don't see that it's ever gonna get I mean, we're gonna have this large capital transfer for the bond for a long time. And if we want to be doing capital planning, we have to bite the bullet at some point and put these items in there. So, we could start small and, but, I guess I just assume, I mean, the other thing is we want the voters to know that we're doing this kind of strategic planning in that sense, and understand how this capital budgeting is working. And so, one thing is to help voters know that we're putting in $10,000 this year, and we hope to be able to buy the screen plant in in 7 years, or whatever, or 2 years, or 4 years, or whatever. But so either we're gonna say that we think investing in a screener is a good thing to do, but we're gonna be faced with this bond payment for a long time, so I don't see that there's ever gonna be a better time, unless for some reason the trucks start lasting for 18 years or something, and we don't have to buy a new truck, so. Maybe it's bad because it's the first year of this big capital transfer.
I mean, so we could put it in as a holding place, and like you say, we'll see where we are. But I, would want everybody here to think hard on this, so next week when we get to it, we decide we're good, or we're not good, what are we gonna move on? And Mike, if you were to give us your priorities here, I know you thought the screen plant seemed to be the smartest thing to do, but, do I hear you say, but heck, if you're only, instead of 35 for the screen plant is 70,000? So
Used,
if-
possibly.
Yeah, used roughly. If you're not gonna give me 75, you're not gonna give me 70, and you're gonna do this in increments over 2 or 3 years, throw in the mulcher, or, let's do that. So, I mean,
No, that's fine. It just, my thought is why are we putting the mulcher in the capital when it's a purchase that's potentially gonna last 10 or 15 years? So we're gonna put, $500 a year again?
no, right,
no,
no, I
just
say
buy
we
the
just do
mulcher.
it, yeah,
Buy the
I would
mulcher.
just say you just do that,
Dropping
yeah.
that out of the capital.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it is a capital purchase, so,
So-
it would go in and come out the same year.
Yeah.
But, so, and then the tractor, where did we stand? I know you described
The
it before.
tractor, that'd be the next priority.
Screen plant, then mulcher, and then tractor, and then the dump truck.
Okay. Does that sound good? We'll put it in, we'll see how much it hurts.
So we're putting in everything as it was before, with the case tractor being the 20,000 or the 5,000 that you'd suggest in the smaller increments. So we had the screen plant 35,000, mulcher at 5,000, case tractor either the
I have it at-
20,000 or
I
the
show it at
5,000.
20, because that's what we had.
20
it
is
at,
what
yeah.
I'd had it, and then the 2009 or 10 dump truck, 25,000.
Mhm.
And so that was a total of 85,000.
85,
Yeah,
yeah.
okay.
And then we'll,
And then we'll
Go
just
back
have
to
to
the
make
well.
the decision
we'll
next
just
week.
go, yeah. Well, it doesn't look like, I don't see anybody making a decision, so.
But
And
you've
I
heard
think
from Mike
Tom-
what his priority
Yeah,
is.
and we got the
Yeah.
priority, and I heard Tom sort of say, let's see, you know, these are good items, but let's just see what the bottom line, we haven't heard yet from other folks, so. All right, anything else on the highway?
Unless Mike has something that he wants to just completely cut out.
I see the,
Winter,
utilities for the building, you know, go up quite a bit, which we expected. Is that roughly kind of, are you getting an idea now?
not yet.
Okay,
Yeah, this is just a guess. I mean,
Yeah.
I basically just doubled it, just a little
Okay.
bit,
Okay.
of what the other one
but
was, but
probably by March
it
we'll
may be.
have an
I
idea.
hope so.
Yeah, okay, all right. As soon as you know, you get an
Yeah.
idea, it'd be good to let us know. Because that's gonna be an item that probably will come up, should come up at town meeting and sort of say, you know, where's that going?
Yeah.
But it's certainly explainable. Anything else on highway? All right, let's jump to police. Thanks, Mike.
Do we have the cost of permits in highway? For the new
Permits.
multi-sector permit that we need, and what's that gonna cost us, a couple $1,000s?
What do you mean the multi-sector?
For the stormwater
General-
permit.
The municipal roads general permit? Yeah,
yes.
that is in his, budget. I think that's what usually,
Well,
what was it this
if
last
it's
year?
there,
Yeah.
it's fine.
1,800.
1,800,
No,
something
I
like
thought
that.
it was gonna be a little over 2,000.
Is that based on the number of,
I don't know how they're
I
doing
didn't, yeah,
it.
it was gonna vary.
It
At
goes-
first, it was gonna be a set number, and then towns complained because some towns are bigger than others, and I don't know, it was
Okay.
adjusted, and I don't.
so it just goes to the state?
Yes, go,
Water.
yeah, it's for stormwater, yeah.
All right,
And I think the majority of it is administration fees.
Yeah.
I don't know what they do.
the amount to
So they
collect,
can come out
it
and
takes,
inspect.
it takes money to collect all
Dix
that money.
fees.
All right, next item is police. So are there any changes,
Thanks, Mike.
thanks Mike, to the police than what we've been looking at?
So the only
The
things that,
salaries went up, I noticed.
the salary, I think, was the same as what he had put in last time. He had given you, what his current salary is, and then two different, percentages for the new chief. And so he was, can find his,
I thought there was some discussion, I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but thinking maybe the new chief would be a little less, and so therefore I thought it went down a little bit from the last
Right,
one.
I think, and Frank can correct me, but I think that last year we approved an increase in salary, so we're still seeing that it's not as much as it would have been because
Okay,
Right.
because the
gotcha.
chief's salary is.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's what he had
Alright.
stated in his memo.
That makes sense, yep.
Yep.
Okay.
And then the capital transfer, reflects the two, cruiser payments and,
The technology
the,
thing.
yes, the combined, we have the mobile technology fund.
And this is the first time we're starting to save for that, right?
Well, it's combined, it used to be the computers, video cameras and everything, so
Okay.
I consolidated it into one. And so this is the first time you're seeing it as the mobile technology.
That's the 5,000.
So, and
Any
then,
comments from you, Frank, on it, or? You guys, you feeling all right, even though you're gonna be gone? You know,
so
You
one.
don't actually own it, but.
Well, he's still paying for
He's
it.
still here, yeah, that's right, still paying for it.
One thing to note, though, in the mobile technology replacement fund, talking to Frank and to Caleb, 10,000 is what they recommend each year. But because there's already 5,000 in capital reserves, I was proposing for FY20 just do it 5,000, and then the following years after that, you'll see they're 10,000.
Back up, yeah.
Yep.
this will all be the first time dispatch will be a fixed amount.
Right,
Yep.
which is the savings this
Yeah.
year, so
Yes.
that's great.
Seven grand or so.
Yep.
I believe. Something like that.
Well, the thing
No,
is that was a estimated dispatch fee. We never knew what we were gonna get charged. So what we were
Good
asking
point.
for would have been around 48,000. Well, now we know that we're gonna be 40,000.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that's why it looks like it does.
Good.
More budget friendly.
Any other comments?
And that was just really, I think, a decision by the Shelburne Town Manager.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then on the, I so much wanna say income.
Revenue. Revenue.
If you do, we'll know
It's
what
not
you're talking about.
income. We are seeing an increase in, some of the, fines and whatnot.
Well, what you're seeing, let me get to that, is just consolidating because Missy on the NIMRIC software, she's not, or how they come in, she's not able to distinguish like the overweight permit fines versus
Okay.
the others. So even though we'd had a line for overweight permits, nothing was being shown in that. So rather than, we just put it into judicial.
How come we got so much
Overweight tickets.
in 71, so, but now we're only budgeting 30?
It just is.
People are getting smarter.
Well, it's one of those things where you never know. I mean, you could have a year that it's really heavy, but once they start to get word out, right now we're probably seeing more fines than we will be because
Okay.
the word is
Yes,
Work-
I've
they
heard.
go
Getting out.
around.
People aren't happy.
Okay. Are we feeling that's pretty that's conservative? Or?
I mean, if you look back in the last 3 years, I think it is.
Yeah.
So we didn't. So for FY '20, I show 0 for the overweight truck fines, but then the increase of 10,000
Yes.
to the judicial
To the
fines.
judicial.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Any other discussion on police?
Well, the only thing I would say is whether there's any kind of budget item we want to do for the building for the heating. I know that the Energy Committee was trying to
Well,
make-
they have in their budget to work on the efficiency audit, I guess.
Yeah,
audit.
but whether
but-
there's something specific in the building right now that needs to get.
I
Yeah.
think what would be nice that we didn't have money for is the computer that talks to these heating systems. Because right now, it's, the year before last, the reason it was so high, the floor was fighting with the rest of the building. Well, we've got it to where the floor isn't fighting with that anymore. So I think we've actually noticed that our electric bills have been down.
Okay.
So, things like that, but, I can't remember, Efficiency Vermont.
Efficiency Vermont, yeah.
Right, he emailed me, wanted to set up a meeting, I emailed him back, given a schedule, and I haven't heard from him,
Okay.
but he's gonna come in
Okay.
and look at it too. If anything anybody can do, we're all
Yeah.
for it.
Well, I
guess
just,
we
I mean, I
wait
think
to
that's
s-
good to hear that
Yeah.
that issue was resolved.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I guess we wait for any
Okay.
audit and,
Yep.
you know, if there's an investment, in something like this, I would think it'd be more of the fine tuning.
Yeah.
And,
Well, that's not a warranty issue. I mean, it seems to me like that's been a problem ever since the building was.
Yeah, but it's not it's not a mechanical failure. What it is to me is the design. It's the way they designed the system. So like I said, if we would have had a computer, then the computer talks to the floor and this, and then you get it to where it can shut down. One of the nice things is like right now, at 2 o'clock in the morning, we still have heat going. We can't tell the system to go ahead and, okay, it's 11 o'clock, people are gonna be out, let's go ahead and shut it down a little
Yeah.
bit. Because if you lose any glitch in the power, you lose your program. So, I mean, there's a couple of little things that would have been
well,
nice
I
had
would,
they done.
I would hope Efficiency Vermont would dig into this,
Yeah,
No, that's fine.
come up,
Yeah.
More
yeah,
than happy to have them.
and we can ask that
It's
question.
just,
Yeah.
that whole thing is annoying to me because you can buy a programmable thermostat and accomplish a better result. And who knows how much we spent on this technology that doesn't appear to work. I mean, that's the bottom line.
well, I think it's because you have two technologies and they're not
Well,
communicating.
regardless
Right,
of what it
right,
is, this
yeah,
is supposed to be
I mean, I agree with
top-notch
Tom.
building, which it is. But if you're spending oodles more than you should be to save energy, and you're actually spending more, that's a problem with.
Well, I mean, I agree with Tom in that, but we do spend a lot of money. It's a fairly big building. We're heating the garage. I mean, so there's a lot to it. I think we get the experts in there, Efficiency Vermont.
Well, the
and
garage
have
is
them
natural
tell us.
gas and it's set to 55,
Yeah.
so.
And it works fine.
That's working.
Yeah.
We're fine. I think
Okay.
our problem is in the rest of it.
All right.
So that's easy.
55, that's my house.
All right, anything else on police? So fire is next. Are there any changes to that budget from last time? There were a couple of questions, I think, last time.
Yeah, let me just,
And I know you guys are looking at your capital, going forward,
Yeah,
different options, but we're not really jumping into that this year necessarily. Next year is just sort of continue on the same path.
so I talked to Al a little bit more about it today. The only thing he was kind of tossing around was the call reimbursables, just because of the rate, the wage.
Right.
minimum wage
Yeah.
changed, but then we should be able to offset with the two different work crews, so I think we're all right.
That's that 48 number.
The 48,000.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but your calls.
But, I mean, one thing I will say, the unfortunate thing is it's just a shot in the dark, truthfully, because, I mean, right now, we're at 300 calls since July 1, which is gonna put us like 200 calls over last year. And so, I mean, it's, it's a, I don't know how to project it. I guess it could slow right down, but I don't
Right.
think that's gonna happen.
What's that,
So.
what would that percentage be roughly if we got 200, if you continued at the same rate?
200. Oh, it's running the 20%.
Yeah,
Percent increase, yeah.
okay. And that's just counting it every time you get a call. It
Right.
doesn't say what
Yeah.
kind it is, they're all, yeah.
Right.
All right,
Yeah, and we don't really have anything to offset that with, so
Yeah.
it's,
And it's listed as fire dispatch, but it's EMT dispatch?
well, it's fire because it's fire department responding.
Right.
There isn't a separate EMS part of it, I guess. is
Right,
what
but
that-
I think it's important to distinguish
Right,
Yeah,
within
I
the
think-
department
Fire
that
EMS
most of the,
dispatch, right.
that most of the calls are for EMT.
Right.
Right.
And that we
I
really
think
need to
that-
recognize that.
And as we discuss the fire department budget and all that,
Yeah.
we sort of say,
Right.
it's really turned, I think the last time you were here or a couple of times ago,
Yeah.
you said, it's turned into a,
EMS department.
yeah, EMS.
That does fire. yeah.
Medical response
That's right.
that
Yeah.
also puts out fires.
I
on
mean, if
the
we were,
side.
if it continues, we'll be at 400 EMS calls and 200 or less fire calls.
Yeah,
I think that's in a written narrative someplace that Al
Yeah.
wrote.
okay.
So I think we have the numbers then right. The only thing in the capital improvement plan and the narrative to kind of, so if you recall last time, the fire department had brought their suggested capital improvement plan and their narrative items, so I've tried to incorporate those into the narrative and the capital improvement
Yep.
plan as best as I can, but so there's gonna be more discussion as far as the building, when that happens, and, the fire department. So I think we have the numbers then right. The only thing in the capital improvement plan and the narrative to kind of, so if you recall last time, Al had brought the fire department had brought their suggested capital improvement plan and their narrative items, so I've tried to incorporate those into the narrative and the capital improvement plan as best as I can, but so there's gonna be more discussion as far as the building, when that happens, if you'll see engine 2 and engine 3's description. Engine 2 is really, when we were talking about the aerial truck, the Quint,
Right, it's 5 years
That's-
away, so.
Yeah.
that is, that the engine 3, trying to offset the current payments on the rescue pumper, and so once that's paid off, I think FY '21 is the last payment on that, then be replacing it, so starting in FY '22, then start putting 100,000 away.
For
You're
3 years,
estimating,
yeah.
estimating 2 to 300,000, so if 2 years, we put 100,000 each, and 3 years, put 100,000, so. If you look in the capital improvement plan, I tried to reflect that one.
And, you also show the ambulance. I mean, I think, and it's fair to, as we discuss at town meeting or have discussions to, I think to paint the fire department as now the medical rescue fire department. And that, in our future, will more than likely be an ambulance and a real, I'm not gonna say a real medical, but, enhanced,
Different.
significantly enhanced.
And it's really, it's obviously yet to be decided. I mean, that's the.
Right.
you know,
Right, I mean, I think
that's-
there's other, we really need to
That's
keep the
right,
big
yeah.
picture, of
Right.
Yeah.
keep
So
it open
there
a
are
little bit.
options.
Yeah.
We're making
But-
the picture, so
yeah.
we'll have it.
But it'll be worth mentioning the factual information that you had let us know about St. Mike's and their
Yes.
conversation.
Right.
Yes,
Should have a letter tomorrow or the next day. It's
Okay.
June 2020
2020.
is the end of their service. So,
All right.
So when you look at the
That's right.
capital improvement plan, with whichever department we're in, so if you're looking at fire right now, which is up there, on the bottom blue is the totals. If you look at the totals for each year, they're very similar, and that's kind of what you want to, is sort of the target is
Yeah.
you're trying, that's why you develop
want
these
these
capital
shocks,
plans, so you
yeah.
don't have these large,
So, I have a question, about Med 100 and Engine
Yep.
2. So, for the next 1, 2, 3, 4, those are empty. Are we thinking after Engine 3 is done, we go to Engine 2, then Med 100, and then we
Right.
just sort of start it over
100
again?
becomes a utility truck once, if there's an ambulance, and that becomes a utility truck. And then at the end of its lifespan, we will decide if the utility truck is what to have or not,
Yeah.
really.
yeah,
Yeah.
so
Repurpose
those
it
go
or sell it.
beyond this capital improvement
Yeah.
plan,
Yeah.
beyond the
But
FY
that's the
24.
pattern that we're
Outside.
going
Right.
with, is
Yeah.
we just move, the
Exactly.
blue
Yeah.
stays
By
the
then it'll be
same, and we
somebody
just
else's
move around
decision.
inside the cells,
Yeah, yep,
essentially.
so, so that we're offsetting, so they're always,
Okay.
when
Although
something
the-
comes off, then you're putting something else is starting.
Yep.
All right.
but I think there's a lot more variability in the use on those vehicles,
Yeah,
on some of those
Some of
vehicles
those
than
vehicles.
than in the highway department.
Right.
You know, where you can
Yeah.
really average
Right.
the mileage on those, so
Yeah.
Right.
And
we
it-
would be taking a closer look
Right.
at.
and again, a capital improvement plan is just that, it's a
Yeah.
plan. So what we're looking at is this vertical blue column is FY '20. And those are the things that we're making these
Yeah.
decisions about now that we actually are gonna transfer
Yeah.
for FY '20. The rest of it is a plan, but we need that plan so that we can kind of
Right.
think about where it makes sense.
Well, it places
We
the
can-
vertical blue in the context
Yeah.
of the decision.
Right, and
Yeah.
then we'll be making an adjustment again this time next year. So,
Okay. So I am putting together for the town report. Yeah, I assume the fire department's gonna have something in there.
Yeah.
But I'll probably contact you to make sure there seem to be,
Yeah, I'll make sure and get you some good information.
okay.
Unfortunately, we have to write that report, a few weeks ago, so
Yeah,
you
yeah.
really
Yeah.
can't reflect
I just think.
what we know today.
Yeah, no, I
guess,
think it's a
you know.
good,
Yeah.
even if we're not showing it in the
Right.
budget for this year, to sort of mention that.
And I
this
would
stuff's
hope,
coming.
I mean, I would like maybe an advisory question at the end of town meeting about, wherever you think to put it. I mean, one of the things we talked about is a questionnaire that people could fill out about an ambulance service, you know, yes, you know, are you in favor of it? You know, crafting it somehow so we can start getting feedback. Right after town meeting, we're gonna have some couple public meetings to try to do collecting some feedback as to the direction the community wants to go. So, which is all part of building a model of what we're gonna do, so, but to get something in, you know, some conversation done, started.
Yeah, I really applaud that effort. I think what's most important, though, is that it's hard to give feedback if the community doesn't have a lot of information.
Right.
So that's really I think the task is to make sure that we put all of the, you know, all the options and all the questions on the table, so we can, so that you can get feedback and that we have enough information. Or maybe that's the feedback from the community as well. We need more information. What are our options?
Yeah, and I think that's really you might say the start of the narrative is the town meeting, and then the follow-up meetings really is where the information will get pushed out, and it can start to form what we're gonna do.
And Al, if you would like to still edit your town report submission, I can allow that.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah, I appreciate that you're not coming in and saying, the ambulance is disappearing, we've gotta do, you know, and
Yeah,
I
we
mean,
have
no.
time to plan.
Right,
Yeah, we have
today,
a little time.
right, I mean, you know, it's not something we could, even if you said, okay, we're gonna put money in the ambulance, we couldn't do it.
yeah,
I mean, that's the bottom line, it just physically with the number of people and everything that, the permits, the licenses, the people, you know, even if you put the money there, we couldn't do it,
Yeah.
so. You know, so we definitely are looking at best, an interim piece to this, you know, if we go to an ambulance, we've got an interim piece we've gotta
fill in, yeah,
You've gotta fill in,
Okay.
so.
good.
Yeah.
All right, anything else on the fire? All right,
I have a question. There's a line in the budget for building maintenance. What do you anticipate with, what is it, 16, I think, this year is in the budget? What do you anticipate this year for the building?
About the same,
Is that just like painting the walls kind of stuff, or is that like we're gonna do like,
painting the walls,
are we gonna do
right.
major pieces?
No, we don't have any funding in there to do major pieces. We did get an estimate done for if we wanted to make it whole, I guess is the way to put it, maybe that's the best way to describe it. It was sizable, we didn't feel that, given where we're at today, that investment was wise to make. It's not, I don't wanna compare it to the old town garage that we're in that state, because we're not. Yeah, there are things that need to be done, but can be deferred.
Yeah.
And it'll still be as good next year as it is this year, but,
And that's what that number reflects.
right, yeah, that's really just to, you know, clean the floors and do the minimum amount of stuff to keep it functional, so.
okay. All right, anything else? Not town administrator, which includes energy committee, economic development committee. I don't think there were too many things in here. You mentioned the town report, we've given it our best guess.
Yeah,
Do you have anything budgeted for update on the impact fees? I'm not sure where it would go, so.
I don't,
Okay.
no. But, so he's, talking about maybe we have someone look at our impact fee ordinance
Yeah,
and
we
have them
definitely
in
wanna
depth,
do
yeah.
that, yeah, as a
So-
goal, for sure. I mean, that goes across the board for fire and.
Yeah.
Well, whether we want to keep it with fire and police,
Right.
or whether we
And
could
water,
have,
wastewater.
we could have it
like that.
water, we could have it for rec, we could have it for
Yeah.
highway.
Yeah,
We can, the impact fees can, or school,
Yeah.
we can change what we're collecting for. Or add.
Right.
well, I mean, we do have a expected increase in development, and, so we wanna be ahead of that, if in fact that increased development is forcing us to do more water, some wastewater, fire, and certainly medical side of it, so. All right. So town administrator, so you've got the town report at 3, is that where you think we're good there?
I mean, 3 is what we,
That was that conversation
Yeah.
you
what
gave
we
us
talked
last time,
about, yeah.
Seems reasonable,
with increases
And then-
in printing and all that.
yeah.
Right.
And we talked about the committees, these 3 committees,
Mm-hmm.
last time.
Yeah, so the Energy Committee had provided you that,
The
Yep.
narrative of
Yeah.
about 3 items, there were some reaching out, some education piece, then there were these, looking at the efficiency of the buildings.
That was the big one, as
and
I
I
recall.
did reach out to them, or email, just to see if they had a little more detailed information about deliverables. I haven't heard back yet, so. Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah.
And the economic development, were we gonna leave that in, or
Yeah.
You had kind of you tossed around leaving it
Okay.
in,
just to add it
potentially.
there? Yeah,
Our
But we're gonna
discussion was
we
about
weren't gonna
making sure we didn't, sort of, it was gonna change its focus a little bit more to the loan fund.
So what they were thinking about is pausing the Economic Development Committee and then just acting as the revolving loan fund
Right.
committee. Right now, they're 2 separate committees, but comprised of the same people.
yeah,
And they'd like to, put more of their effort in the revolving loan fund committee. And they're already having a hard time, with doing the meetings, the
Yeah.
multiple meetings, so if they
Yeah,
just
that
had
makes
one.
sense.
Yep.
Yeah.
and then the
Are
capital.
we in the position of losing that money if we don't spend it?
Yes, I mean, there
And
is
what's the
definitely,
date, like,
there is
deadline on
definitely a timeline, and I don't have that.
Okay.
It'd be good,
Yeah.
maybe after January, maybe we can
Yes.
get them in here
Yeah.
and discuss changing the committees and then talking about the loan and seeing, if they're okay with moving forward or if there's something else we can do to help them. 'Cause
Yeah.
I think there's 50,000.
Yeah.
Something like
And
that.
that's what we talked about the last time, is to have them back after we finish
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
budget, and to
Okay.
kind of talk about that.
And then we have the 2,500 for this building in particular, which I do need to get that Slate guys
Yep, so,
contact from you if I
okay.
get a chance.
yeah, I can,
Because
we
maybe
can,
we can tie them in with both buildings.
That's true.
which are
Yeah,
this
that's
building.
true.
Get it
I
here
know
at the
there's-
same time.
They are, spring, they're trying to, they've got a pretty busy schedule, but they're looking at some availability
Okay.
in
I
the spring at some point, so.
Yeah, that'd be
yeah.
great, yeah. Because that'll be the timing for us, would be good.
Yeah.
All right, anything else on,
So I do want to look at, let's see. Well, you're still on town administrator. Okay, yeah, no, that's fine. On the buildings and facilities, I
yeah,
have
so
more
we move
things
to
to talk
building
about.
and facilities. That's line 92.
All right,
So we have the legal fees, which we think will have us covered.
oh, legal
And
In
we're
fees,
not-
buildings and facilities?
No.
Professionals.
your legal,
professional-
legal fees is up in
Is up in the
select
select
board,
board.
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Professional services is under buildings and facilities.
Right,
Professional services under buildings and facilities is like the wall contract, the mowing contract,
yeah,
the
yeah,
cleaning
yeah, okay.
service
My
and
mistake.
things like that. So the capital transfer, if you look right now, it's the 10,458. But if we go to the capital improvement plan, just make sure. So because we've been talking about the sidewalk project, there's actually some changes in there that I want you guys to discuss. So the tree planting and maintenance, you guys had talked about putting 2,000 in. Last time we talked about the 5,000 for sidewalk
5,000,
construction. I spoke with Tyler Billingsley. He's been starting to do the work, and so he's kind of taken a look at it. He gave me a call last week, and he said, I haven't really taken a deep dive. He goes, but my thinking, just initial thought is maybe, 10,000 per year to be saving to actually really do the types of improvements that would be needed because, larger sections of sidewalk to actually replace them. The cost, is we wouldn't have enough if we were just doing the 2,500 or even 5,000 per year. If you look in the far left under sidewalk construction, in capital
We have
reserves,
14.
as of June 30th, 2018, we had almost 15,000. And then in this current year, we transferred 2,500. So that would be about 17,500, just under, that we'd have by the end of this fiscal year. So right now, what you're seeing in the capital improvement plan for the next 5 years is 7,500. And so that 40,000 would include the, let's see,
So he's taking a look at it and saying, it's gonna be a little more than $2,500 a year to maintain and replace the sections that might need to be replaced. And I would assume, probably because we really haven't done anything in the last 10 or 15 years,
right, yeah.
it's probably a little bigger to start with, and once you catch up, it might not be so bad.
So he's
Well,
gonna put
yeah,
it
I
in
mean-
the order of priority, what the areas that we need to focus on first, and have a price tag for each section that needs improvement. And then we can sort of plan that out and budget when we're doing our budget each year of what sections, okay, we've done this will be for FY20, this will be for FY 21 and beyond.
I mean, so it sounds like we could put more in there, but I'd be okay with putting what we got in until we get the actual report, knowing that we'll have some in there if we wanna do some fixing for the next year.
Yeah, and you're also talking about the Richmond.
Right.
And is that something that's really capital, or are you talking about more of sending mailers out to people as far as
Well,
neighborhood?
I don't
No, I
imagine
think for
it's
this year,
capital.
it's not
Right.
capital.
Right,
Sure.
okay, that's what
No,
yeah.
it's just
Some additional.
staff
Just-
time,
Right,
postage,
Yeah.
advertising, that kind of stuff.
right,
But I think in terms of, I don't think we should start putting money in the capital budget for Richmond Road
Right.
No.
until we,
Have a plan.
what the project is.
right,
But I do think that we can be budgeting, that $5,000, like, we've been doing that for over 25 years. So maybe we can ratchet it up a little.
The 5 for sidewalks?
Yeah,
we just cut it down this
Okay.
this
Right.
current
Yeah,
year
yeah,
because
yeah.
our budget was.
Yeah.
right.
So we're saying 75 seems
Yeah.
like a good step forward.
And we may, after we get the report, I think what I hear
Say
Renee
we may
saying is
need
we may
more.
wanna make it to 10.
Right,
But I think I agree with you, Phil, that let's wait till we get that report. Tyler has a sense of, how often
Yeah.
we're gonna have to do this kind of inventory kind of thing.
yeah,
And then also what those capital costs may be to, whether it's capital expenditures or repair and maintenance that we have to do
Right.
on an annual basis or biannual.
and I put the 7,500 knowing this conversation would happen, but
Yeah.
that's sort of right in the middle of the
Yeah.
5,000
Yeah.
that we used to do
Yeah.
versus the 10,000 he's suggesting, and
Yeah,
I think that seems reasonable.
all right. And town hall upgrades, I 2,500 before. I'm thinking, perhaps 5,000 that we should be saving just each year because not only the roof is going
The
to,
door, you've got.
there's
The
quite a few
steps
things. The
over
steps.
there.
I mean, there's
Yeah.
quite a few things, and
I'm all right with that. I mean,
Yeah.
we went into this the last 2 years saying we've got to take care of our buildings.
Yes.
We've
Yeah.
got to maintain them.
yeah,
the
One
rugs
thing I
are
would love to
pretty-
see happen at town hall is up in that room, the lighting get improved.
Oh, yeah, do they need to be new bulbs or something, because
So-
they go on so
Yes, because though they are, blanking on the name of the.
Sodium?
Yes,
Yes.
yes,
Which are-
yeah, so they take a long time. It's not so much the fixture that would be, I mean, the fixtures will
It's
be
just the bulb.
expensive,
Yeah,
but the bulbs we can replace. It's just that if we wanted to actually replace the fixture, we'd have to have a lift, someone coming, and that would be the cost of the time, the labor and everything. So it's rather expensive. Once we were looking at the quotes, I
Well,
did the efficiency
Yeah,
Vermont.
I think I'm all right with increasing that to 5, because the 2,500 never seemed like quite enough. I think
Yeah.
Every time I said, you sure that's? gonna be
Right,
good?"
right,
So
yeah.
it seems reasonable, then we'll have, if we, need to do some roof work, we need to do some other things, we have a little bit there to do it.
Uh-huh.
This building's an expensive building,
Yeah.
so.
I actually did remember something, is the flagpole.
Hmm.
The flagpole conflicts, or the tree conflicts with the flagpole. The trees were there first and then the flagpole came in.
It needs to
And
be
so
Very good
it might
point.
be easier to move the flagpole.
Yeah,
Agreed.
This one out here.
yes, yeah, 'cause
Yeah,
it-
yeah. So either putting it
It's-
down in the circle or out on the road or,
I always thought it'd be kind of nice, kind of like at the corner almost, just so it's sort of there as a
yeah.
spot right on the corner lit up, nice. But, I'm open to whatever, as long as it's not in conflict with the tree, because
Right.
it does kind of hang in the bushes, in the tree
And it
branches.
gets
At half
snagged,
mast,
and
yeah,
it gets-
and they have done some trimming on the tree, but I think it would be
Yeah.
better to have the flagpole as a separate
Agreed.
unit.
Agreed.
So, I mean, we have the pole, it's a matter of just, I think, pouring a base for it and maybe working on some, the lighting for it, but I think that they've resolved how to do that at the Memorial Park and stuff, so.
Yeah.
You know,
So we'll increase that line to 5.
I think that makes,
but if that can be one of the items that we
And does
Look
it,
into.
look
Yeah.
into.
Yeah.
Yep.
does it make sense to put items like this for this building? We're talking about improvements to this building or maintenance of this building or improvements. Just to have capital planning for all of our buildings, or is it best to put it under the categories of each building as we go through it? I mean, is there a pro-con to one way or the other? If you just say building maintenance and it goes to all of our buildings, and you just say, like, is there a pro-con?
Really,
no, it doesn't. I mean, this is in the, for buildings and facilities, it's really talking about town hall.
Right.
Yeah.
Because
I
the
think
police
in
has
the-
its
Right.
building and
Right.
highway does its
I mean, I
maintenance
could see
on-
us someday in the future having a person, or a department that's in charge of all the buildings.
Yeah, that's what I'm
Yes.
kind of getting at.
Potentially, but right now, I mean, you got the highway, they take care of their building, police takes care of their building, and that seems to work. So putting them in those budgets works, but,
But I think,
I think we've said, it would be good to have this sort of larger oversight. Not
Just where I'm
necessarily-
kind of going with my
Yeah.
comment. Yeah.
yes, I think.
But right now, we're not gonna change it.
But I think, I mean, the general message and all of the department heads are, no, we're wanting to take care of the spaces we have. And so I think they're all being,
Right.
have a good awareness of their buildings. And we talked about that. I was even talking to Frank about it. Are there any other maintenance issues you're seeing with the police station building to be thinking about for the budget? So it's definitely more front and center.
Anything else on buildings and facilities? So the cemetery, we talked about that last week, and you have a little,
Did you see the front page Sunday Free Press article on
I
cemeteries?
didn't see that.
No,
No.
Yeah, it was a big article on why it costs so much to have a burial in Vermont. In some communities are just big differences in price and cost.
Come to Hinesburg,
Yeah.
we have a bargain.
I just thought it was interesting how we had
Yeah,
just talked
that
about
is
it, and then it was a
interesting. I'll have
front
to go
page
back and look at it.
Sunday
Yeah.
paper thing.
Yeah.
Did they talk about how they fund those besides?
Yeah, and well, it wasn't very in depth, but that was
Yeah.
that
Is it
was the
about
gist of it.
funeral or?
A little both. Yeah.
Cost of caskets. and
Yep.
that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't so much on the municipal side of like maybe directly what we were
Yeah.
talking about, but it's
Right.
all sort of related.
Well, you know, we have the national expert on why funerals
Yes.
cost so much here in Hinesburg.
Yes.
I do know that.
Yeah,
Right.
good to get her book out, and
Mm-hmm.
So
Lisa Carlson.
we've got the mowing the same, and you've increased the R&M, which is, what's R&M stand for?
Repair and maintenance.
Repair and maintenance.
She passed.
Thank goodness, I had studied all day for this.
And does Phil understand the difference
Well,
between revenue and
Yeah,
income?
He will.
I would normally
He will.
see O and M.
Depends what industry you come from, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. The same
So we've
thing.
increased that just a little bit.
On the buildings repair and maintenance.
No, the cemetery.
Oh, the cemetery.
Yeah, I
Okay,
jumped- I jumped
sorry.
to that, Yeah.
Did we increase the budget, or did we put something in capital?
So I haven't done the capital yet. I just
Okay.
wanted you guys to talk about that a little more tonight, and so I can have good direction. So that was the suggestion, is have a 3,000, to have a capital transfer of 3,000.
Yeah.
So I would need to add that to the capital budget.
So it would come out of that line.
Yep, and I'd
And
have a
go
capital
there.
transfer
Yeah.
line on the cemetery commission. And then I would have in the capital improvement plan, add a section for cemeteries.
I think
That's for
a-
the stone repair.
No,
Or
it's just a
anything could be,
capital
yeah.
for them to be thinking about needing new fencing for some of the, you know, there's potentially, they're gonna need to repave the road
Yeah,
in the
fix the
village cemetery at a
roads.
certain point, so I don't think it's,
Do the fountain.
right, I think there's a variety of projects that they need to be thinking about in terms of a longer term planning for a couple of the cemeteries. Not necessarily, I don't think it's specifically for the stones.
Right.
I was just trying to put out the ideas that there is an ongoing expense to having the cemeteries.
Yeah.
And,
So the cemetery repair and maintenance line would stay the 2,000.
Yeah.
you'd
And I'd
add-
just be
add a
adding the
capital. Yep.
3,000, you're just seeing the total, what the
Okay.
total would be for that.
you know, putting a new road in because they have complained about that it's hard getting,
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, I think, the cemetery committee can also look at what we charge and see if
Yeah,
that's
yeah, exactly.
appropriate. And,
Yeah.
And insurances, did you want to talk about that?
Sure. So, health insurance, again, it's such a hard one to figure. I mean, we are trending high right now, but there were changes that we didn't anticipate. So anytime there's an employee mix change
Yeah.
or something that can make a significant difference. So I've got the 178, 479. It's still, that number can change if,
Yeah.
we may have there could be staffing changes that mix it up, or, which we've already had before, somebody that was on a single plan went to a family or to a, two-person, and so those types of changes.
So it's going up quite a
Yep,
bit, but I think you're just, it's your best estimate.
It's
and
best
that's what we'll
estimate.
go with. That's what we'll have to go with, I think. We don't want to fall short.
And then for the property and liability and workers' comp, again, they go on a calendar year, so we know what the first 6 months are based on the quote that we got. And it's sort of an estimate. I did talk with them, trying to get an idea of, what our experience mod's gonna be, but that could change tomorrow.
Right, it could, but right now
We're doing
trending,
really
it's
well,
going
we're
down.
trending well, our
Do
safety
you know what the
committee's very
mod is,
active.
Actually,
What was it,
One-
1.42, something
Okay,
like
yeah.
that.
Okay.
But it's, we're doing all the right things.
Yep.
And so, we're gonna become a more active role in our insurance as far as meeting with them on a sort of a quarterly basis to review our claims. Are there any claims that maybe questions that we could be answering or things that we could be doing to get them closed sooner or things like
Good.
that, that will help
Yeah,
with
no,
our
but you're
experience
doing-
mod.
I think you're doing all the right things.
So I mean, they'll be
So-
in June setting the experience mod, so so I've set up with them that we'd meet with them ahead of that to really see if there's anything that we can do to.
Yep.
So that's, so there's a decrease, a savings there. And those were slacked up. Let's see.
And then just on the revenue side, there's no changes there where we were.
The other thing I wanted, the Lake Iroquois Recreation District, remember that's gonna be next week because they're meeting in between now and then, so I have let them know the things that we're looking for, and so hopefully we'll have some more clarity from them.
The 2,900, is that what they asked?
2,900 is what they're saying
Okay.
right now. We're looking for like an MOU. We're also
Yes.
looking to, to have a better understanding of what the money's used for and those pieces. And so revenues you had.
Yeah, it was just, you looked at the grand list, and that's not changing very much, just very slight.
It's not, and I actually took, and I've got to talk to Joan about this, but I took the grand list from the errors and omissions and using that rather than the other one, because we actually went,
Yeah.
down. So I didn't want to falsely
Yep.
use
Yep.
the other one, so I'm factoring in that.
Okay. And we talked about Vermont Gas, you just put it in the property tax, so it's all in one.
Yeah,
lump,
so
which makes sense. Yeah.
right, yeah.
Okay.
And we don't have the police impact fees to offset the payment this year.
Right.
So we use them in the current year
Yep.
to offset this one. So there's a decrease in revenue. The other thing to talk about, and I'll be meeting with the St. George Select Board on Thursday.
Oh, yes.
Remember, we had talked about this fire contract, we were going to be meeting, having a committee
Yeah.
and developing that. They've had a lot of changeover. They no longer have a town administrator. They've had different communication things so we haven't been able to have that committee. I've been reaching out to them. I'm now on their agenda for Thursday. So they want to just make the decision at the meeting. I'd like to still honor our committee part, and so Marilee's gonna come,
Okay.
and Al's gonna come,
Right.
if anyone else would like to.
What time?
Is 7:15 is we're on the agenda for
On the agenda for
7:15.
17.
Yeah. So the history behind this is, what we've been billing them is $29,500, but we've kept it the same because I think each year, whoever is the town administrator has been trying to work with them a little bit, and to come up with a better way of doing it. So we've done a 5-year look back, what the actuals were for 5 years. However, because our fire budget has gone up significantly, that number, if you did the 5-year average, is actually, well, I even had to do just some of the budgeted figures rather than actual to try to keep it to a little over 40,000. Yeah, so that's a pretty significant change, which is why we
Yeah.
wanted to have the committee.
Yeah.
So I'm looking for feedback from you guys as far as what you're thinking, that we go to Thursday with. And if you have thoughts, I mean, you certainly don't have to right now, but
Right.
let me know.
Okay. We can talk a little bit about that.
Because the way the contract's written now, it's a fixed
Percentage.
amount for,
It's been a fixed amount,
Yeah.
yes, but, so we invoice them, and so it's based on what we had was a 5-year average.
right,
However, because the fire department, the budget increased significantly,
and they need a number, but we could say that, we could negotiate a contract that it's a percentage of our budget,
and
right?
that, well, yeah,
Based on calls.
But-
I think that's where it came from. No,
Well, I
percentage.
don't
No,
think
it
it's
was-
not based on calls.
it was a 5-year average of the entire fire budget and their, any of the capital, as
But
far
their
as.
percentage.
I believe it was based on the population, though.
Yes,
Oh,
it's a
okay.
per capita,
Population.
it's a
Okay.
per capita cost.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
actually I can show you a figure,
Yeah.
I think I have it on my,
But
Yeah.
the thought is it's gonna be so big that,
Right.
that maybe.
It's a big increase, so that's
Yeah.
why we were gonna try to do the little committee and come up with something collectively, that would make sense.
Well, it'd be interesting to look at what the Williston's whole their budget is.
Yeah.
And, because that's their option, is they can go to Williston.
Right, absolutely.
And so, you know, we have to face the fact, well, it's costing us to have this department, and just the way that we have to deal with Shelburne doing our dispatch. And I can appreciate that it's certainly better for everyone when you have a fixed amount. But it's been 5 years, so it's time to renegotiate the contract, right? So,
Is the contract a year-by-year contract, or is it a 5-year contract?
I think it's been
Or is
done
it just
differently.
more of just a
Yeah,
handshake
I think we were
at this
just trying
point?
to get something that is actually in writing, so we have an understanding of how it's developed. So, coming up with the 5-year, so we take, the 5-year average, and based on our total population and a per capita cost. And so the number that have right now would be $40,415.27. But again, that's not always actuals. In order to try to get that down as much, sometimes I put the budget figure in there.
Yeah.
So, anyway.
So you've got to go there this Thursday.
This
with
Thursday at
something, and
7:15.
Are you going to talk with the
Select
committee?
board?
The entire
ad
select
hoc?
board, yeah, it's their
Okay.
select board meeting.
No, I know, but do you need to come up with this number for Thursday?
I think, I'm gonna talk with, Al some more. I've talked with him a
Okay.
little bit, and Marilyn, if you guys
Okay.
have any thoughts or strong feelings about it, please let me know.
Okay.
well, we have to consider, $30,000 is better than none.
Right, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I think
Absolutely.
that, you might go in there saying, here's what the number's showing, but here's what we got in our budget this year.
Right,
And, over the next year, we have to have a good discussion about it, so we can understand it too.
right.
So, what their options are.
Be interesting, what is their tax rate?
I'm not sure what it is.
Kids go to
Yeah.
the,
Well, yeah, not
School.
counting education, but their
Yeah.
municipal
Right.
tax
Yeah,
rate.
yeah, that'd be
because-
interesting to
Yeah,
know.
Yeah.
so,
Yeah,
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 that's what I'm thinking.
yeah.
Because
me
they
too.
sub out all their roads, their
Right.
fire and their police.
Yeah, they don't have a lot of
So that,
overhead like we do. Yeah.
I think maybe we can be justified in saying, look, we have this department and
Uh-huh.
we're willing to share it with you, but you have to really
Same
help
with
us cover
police.
it, cover
Yeah.
the cost. So
Yeah.
let's ask them for the 40.
Absolutely, if they don't pay it, our residents have to pay it.
Right, we're not,
I have no problem, you don't need to milk it,
right,
Right,
to soak them, but
No,
absolutely.
no.
to help cover the cost the same as our residents do, I don't think that's unreasonable
Yeah.
at all.
But, I think, I don't know, maybe you step it up a little bit over time. I think the bottom line is, if they said no, they don't have to contract with anybody. We're gonna go there anyways.
Right.
Right? I mean, is
might
that
be
right or what?
that might be a tough discussion if that's the route they took.
Wow. Yeah, I agree.
Right.
Yeah,
Well, Williston can go there. We
yeah,
don't have
that's
to go
right.
there.
No, I know.
So
I mean,
that would be interesting to know how much else they
Frank's
might charge
hiding.
them.
Okay.
Be helpful to have
Yeah.
that information.
All right,
All
well,
right.
it's an
Wonder
interesting
if they're
one, like
watching
you
us.
said.
Yeah.
All right,
Can't worry about that.
No.
are we ready to move to town administrator report?
I think that came up at town meeting.
So let's talk about the budget. So what's our schedule here? Next meeting is the,
So next
21st.
meeting,
it's the 20,
it's Martin Luther King Day again.
oh, yeah.
So
always
we
said
wanted-
We're not gonna do that, but.
I
now
know,
we're
but
doing
it-
Yeah, we have
unfortunately-
to do it.
In order to get the capital, we have to do a public hearing, so I had to get that warned, already.
Yep.
So
Oh,
that's
okay.
for Monday is our warning, so perhaps Marilee can do, again, I think you did.
Yeah.
You did something to honor
yeah.
Martin Luther King Day last
Yeah.
time. You read something.
That's right.
Yeah,
Yes,
that would be good to do something.
yeah.
Just say-
Look at that. She's not putting you on the spot. She's giving you a week to prep.
Here you
Isn't
go.
that nice?
And so by the end of next week, next meeting, we'll want to say, this is where we are.
Yes,
Because then you're going to have to put all the warrant items out
yeah,
for
because,
the last meeting
So,
in January.
yeah, so then you'll have the town meeting warning, and I'll have a draft, actually, a draft of it now, but I waited until actually change numbers
Yeah.
until after you make the
It
decisions.
might be good to start to put that draft out a little bit, just so we can just, if you want a little feedback when you're ready,
Absolutely.
ahead of time, just to make sure.
Well, and if we're planning on putting any extra
Yes,
things in it, then,
right.
then I'll need to know that too.
Yep.
Because right now, it's just the standard town meeting warning and then
Yeah, I
I'll
was
just
kind
have
of
to-
waiting for the energy committee to come back with. they want-
I mentioned it to one
Yeah.
of the members, and
Yeah, I did too.
I said, okay, if you want it, you better come. If not, okay.
So yes, so next week is the public hearing for the capital plan and capital improvement plan. And so that will be finalized, then if there's any changes to it
Yeah.
at that meeting. And again, with the budget, you'll have the final
Yep.
figures and decide, okay, is this gonna work, or are there
This is
things that
where
we need
are.
to,
We'll be able to see the bottom line.
Yep.
Where we are.
yep,
And then it would be good to have that, now that we've added some more things, it'd be good to see that.
Yep.
If you can just plug those numbers
I can plug it in quickly.
Yeah.
Actually, I thought I had saved it
Yeah.
onto my passport so that I could do it right here, but
Okay.
apparently I didn't get that one saved. I got the capital improvement plan saved, but I didn't get the actual
And-
budget.
And then, so next week, we'll say, okay, we'll sort of, it's okay to say, we'll bless the budget. Then, and then the next meeting, we're in the window of when we have to do the warning.
So next meeting is the 21st. That's the capital improvement.
Yeah.
The 28th has to be. We have to
Yeah,
have it warned
because
by.
it's not
We
too
can't-
soon
yeah.
and it's not too late.
So
It's the window.
We
have.
can't warn it by the
Right.
the 21st is too
Right.
early. The 28th is our last
Okay.
meeting to warn it. Yeah.
So we'll have all the warnings and we'll be able to say, yeah, that's going in the.
Yeah.
Okay.
But we really want to need to know by the end of next week,
Yeah.
end of Monday,
Finalize
of
those
kind of where
numbers.
we're at, and
Yeah.
what changes you want made, and
Yeah.
so that I
So
can
if
put
you,
everything
I
together.
mean, if you, as soon as you get the latest numbers in there, if you, start the
send it right
next, or start
The next Dropbox.
the next Dropbox.
Yep, I could do that.
And then if any of us wanna, sort of weigh in on things, ahead of time, just, so we're.
Yeah.
Prepared for the meeting.
So that I can do quickly, because there's just a few the things, most of it's in there, it's just the additional items that we talked about, capital transfers for highway and then making the cemetery capital transfer line and that into the capital improvement plan. But if you could just look through things, I mean, if you found any edits, like I think you said
Yeah.
in the narrative, you
Oh,
found
yeah, I
FY
found
20.
some, yeah. I'll
So
tell
just,
you.
yeah, note any
yeah.
of those things,
Yeah,
because
okay.
the more eyes, the
Yeah.
better.
Yeah. So in February, we're back to 2 meetings, we think, but we'll start planning for a town meeting.
For what it's worth, it looks like that is their tax rate. They found in their minutes,
0.29.
0.2926. It was approved at that's the 2017 tax rate, that's what I found.
17.
Yeah,
So,
ours is 52.
yeah.
I think so.
So to your point,
Yeah,
is what that's why I wanted to look that number up. That was their motion, so. I don't know,
All right.
Anyway, just a
All right.
little aside to answer that question for you.
So we're good?
Yeah.
Town administrators report?
Town administrators report. Let's see, we've been actively working with the water and wastewater department, and they are down one staff member due to a military leave, so we've been sort of reorganizing things in there, taking a lot of the buildings and facilities pieces away, so that they can just focus on the water and wastewater piece. We've met with people from Vermont Rural Water who are helping out with different reports that need to be done. So doing a lot of learning for all of us, and and just sort of changing things around. But I think in the end,
Does
everyone's.
it feel like you know, you're making progress?
We're making progress, I think, and
Okay.
I think people are learning a lot in the process. So, and let's see, had a meeting with Jean Jensen regarding the buses and just trying to problem solve, you know, for the winter, you know, as far as getting the buses up on the hills.
So they had the one day where they couldn't get up the hills. Or,
Yeah, you know, and this weather has been tricky because, you know, we've had, the conditions have been such that, you know, maybe there was some ice underneath the snow or whatever, and so, or constant snow. So I think she's also just learning more about, you know, this is her, well, second winter of doing it. So anyway, so we're just sort of problem solving.
Who makes that decision? They do? Or do they talk to Mike?
They do, so it's a combination, and you know, and talking to Mike. But again, you know, the guys they're out plowing, so they can report on, yes, it's snowing, we've made a pass through, but depending on the rate of snow coming down, there may be,
Yeah.
it
Oh,
may
yeah.
still be coming down after them.
Yeah.
So there's a point that we can give a report, but then there's a call that they have to make
Yeah.
on
They have
behalf
to
of
take it
theirs.
from all the towns,
Right.
because it's a district call.
Yeah, but I mean, in this case, the other towns don't have hills like we do.
Right,
So in this
Right,
case,
right.
but
Yeah.
you know, I think, we got to be realistic. There'll be times when
Right.
the hills aren't
Right.
plowed because they're big hills. And
Absolutely.
So I don't know that we, you know, the school district can look to us and say, you must have that done.
Right.
No,
It's just,
no.
yeah.
And that
Right,
was
right.
that was
Right.
that was the
Oh,
conversation that we
I
had.
see.
So there's
Uh-huh.
Understand
a little
that.
bit on both sides
Yeah.
that we got to
Yeah.
make sure there's an awareness, because Hinesburg is very unique. Our
Yes.
hills, the
Yeah.
other towns that go into
Yeah.
this district do not have the
Right.
hills roads that we have.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think you live on the hills, that's what could
Well, the
happen.
buses didn't even used to go up there.
Right.
Right.
That's
Yes,
right, yeah.
and we did talk about that change in practice
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
You know, and the buses, if they're going to be going up the hill roads, they need to make sure they're properly equipped.
Right.
And so they have the
Yeah.
winter tires and not all-season tires, and
Yeah.
and there are on-spot chains that help
Yeah.
with that they need to be utilizing. So there's a conversation on both sides of things that we could do to improve.
I mean, yeah, we could certainly have more formal conversations if they want. I mean, obviously, so you say the buses can't run on it, doesn't mean it's any safer for everybody else trying to get down.
No,
So
no.
Right. Yeah.
Exactly.
It's something we all can
Yeah.
But winter
work at.
conditions, everybody just needs to
Right.
be aware of their driving and what needs to happen. So
I mean, ultimately, it's about safety,
Right.
common sense, and not wanting to damage vehicles. I
Right.
mean,
right.
Right.
Texas Hill, Lincoln,
Challenge,
Yeah.
yeah.
he
It's
knows
a
it's
challenge.
not quite as bad,
Yeah.
but it's
But-
bad enough. And
Yeah.
I would not want my kid
Right,
riding on a bus
Right.
on those hills.
right,
And if they've never gone up there to look at them
Yeah.
firsthand,
yeah.
they should take a ride in a
Yeah,
snowstorm.
Right, right.
Well, and the interesting thing is, I think they were hearing reports that that we hadn't even plowed the roads.
Wow.
Well, actually, we have the computers in the trucks that show the routes, so we were able, I was able to go through and say, yes, they'd already made a pass, and we're completed all of the hill roads by 6:45, and we're back to starting the second round.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but when the snow's continuing to fall down and there's, wind, people may not realize that they've already been out there since 4 o'clock in the
And
morning.
there's such a difference between the village and the hills, and then
Right.
between
Absolutely.
Charlotte
It might not even
and
be
here.
snowing in
Yeah,
Charlotte.
absolutely.
So,
Yeah.
Okay,
happens all the
yeah,
time.
so just to give you a
that's
heads up on
challenge.
that.
Yeah.
Yep. What
And
else
then
is?
water, wastewater you talked about.
Water,
Yeah.
wastewater. We've got a safety committee meeting tomorrow. We're gonna be talking about the designated medical provider we have someone from UVM Medical Center here in Heinsberg coming to meet with the committee,
Oh,
and
So if somebody gets injured, they go there. Yeah,
yes, and
Yeah.
so we're just making sure that they have everything that they're gonna need to be able to provide that service to us.
And they get all their follow-up care.
yeah, yeah.
from them.
And they know what kind of work they do, and so they can
Right.
adjust it. Yep,
Yep.
yep.
Anything else that you can think of that at this hour that we can think of?
We continue to work on the personnel policy.
Yes,
Okay.
yep.
Which is
Yeah,
So
quite the
that's,
undertaking, but making some progress.
yeah, so that was a goal of, one thing of when I had someone else is just to work on the different policies, and personnel was a top one, so just been carving away at it little bit by little bit. So I think that's, again, budget, that's kind of the focus in trying to get the capital improvement plan set and all of those things ready for, the next meeting, because I will be out for a good portion of Friday, if not all,
Okay.
so.
All right. Select board forum?
Nothing right this minute.
No? Minutes, do we want to do the minutes, or do we want to push them out to next week? I think that'd be all right, since we haven't had a chance to review them.
Yeah,
All right, so we'll review the minutes, both sets of minutes next week. Motion to approve the warrants.
I'll make that motion here to include payroll.
Second.
And the AP warrants weren't out there on Thursday, but they're there now. so,
Yes, correct.
So seconded. All those in favor of approving them, say aye.
Aye?
Aye. Andrea?
Yep, aye. Sorry.
It's all right. And now executive session.
yes,
Do you want to describe?
so both will be personnel,
Yes.
yeah.
So, I would like to bring the select board in, just the select board. We're working on your review, and I just want to have a very quick discussion about the process and, how we can move it forward. And then the second item,
The second item is a personnel issue and to include Frank Koss.
okay. All right, so we'll do that one first. So they're both, the motions will be the same. I think, does somebody want to make that?
I'll make that motion for you.
Okay.
I'll second it.
Um,
We have all the numbers down. It's on personnel.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, and then
And so
it's, so, because for personnel
Yes.
reasons, and then consider the motion to go into executive session under provisions 1 VSA, 313, A1, A2, and A3.
Second.
And to include,
For the first section, we'll include Frank, Joy, and Renee.
Yeah.
And then after that, it'll just be select board. And so Wendy will stop the broadcast, and if the select board doesn't expect to take any action, but if they do take action, we'll come out of the executive session, take the action, and it'll be reflected in our minutes. Okay?
Sounds good.
Did we vote? All those in favor of that second? Say aye.
aye.
Aye. Okay.
All right.
All set, Wendy? Okay.